Boom. Okay guys, hello and welcome back. Plan is today, we're gonna be finishing up the Distortion detective, and well, if we can't, likely just do the rest in the video because it won't be enough for an entire stream, but that's gonna be the plan. Oh, hey Turtles, long time no see. Hey man, how you doing? But yeah, so let's see, we should do a recap, eh? Let's see, we got put in enough. We got, went to, which district was it? 11. Well, anyways, we went to a new district because, we were called there to deal with the distortion. Never heard that we had an option. We didn't really have an option here, and, yeah, so we went. Other than that, I mean, the guy we trapped, he can't helping us now, and, well, it is what it is, eh? There are no more distortions left in the cellar. All that remains are the bodies of 46 people. Go ahead and tell us what to do next, Dr. Moses. Vespa asked me in a cynical tone. We should go up, of course. You're good, glad to hear it, man. I'll just warning you now, I probably won't be able to reply too much, like only at the end of chapters or whatever, since we are reading. Just want to tell you first. Glad you're doing better though, man. I can't put my hand on my forehead or smoke my pipe anymore. I can't seem to move my left shoulder as I will. I twisted and moved every part of my body I could to aim the rifle with only one arm. But I guess that wasn't enough to mitigate the gun's recoil. My left shoulder is dislocated, and my right shoulder is gone. I'm completely powerless. Ezra, please carry me on your back.
You bet, Detective.
Vespa, I want you to exert physical strength on my behalf for a while. I can only take responsibility for you after we finish the job. If you wish. Vespa gave an icy reply. Ezra picked up the smoking pipe on the floor and held me in her arms. Ezra, I asked for a piggyback, not this.
It's easier for me to respond to danger in this pose.
Can't believe I'm being carried like a bride at this age. I yielded myself to Ezra's embrace. Yuria was sitting on top of her head before I noticed. Leaving the cellar is going to be a fairly easy task. The floor of the stage we fell from didn't appear to be very solid. And it isn't too high above us. So Ezra and Vespa will be able to easily break the ceiling and secure us an exit. The real problem is what comes after we go up. I'm frankly afraid to imagine what kind of scenery might await us. We traced our way back to where we fell. Yuria closed the door to her workshop and withdrew it. When we opened the steel door again, a heap of rocks were waiting on the other side. The wall of large rocks crudely and doggedly piled on top of one another is reminiscent of the townspeople's vehement disregard. The exit is right above us, Vespa. Am I going to slash open the ceiling? Yes. Vespa brandished his blade without asking further. After a few trails of yellow light flashed in the air, the stage floor broke down. Ezra smoothly dodges the debris falling from above. We jumped up to the ground floor. When we got up, carnage was unfolding before our eyes. The polychromatic scene stimulates and overwhelms my mind. A hellish landscape we can do nothing to fix. This might be one of the 5 most detestable sceneries I have seen in my life. Right. This is what is destined to happen when distortions are entwined with each other. This is not like what happened in the cellar. All the distortions I faced down below were akin to people with multiple heads, each asserting their own thoughts. The ones here are independent beings expressing their unadulterated desires. I should have known that better than anyone, yet I was oblivious of the fact. No, I merely buried it in the back of my mind, not wanting to bring it up again. Dr. Moses, I regret to inform you that I am not capable enough to control the situation. Vespa said in a low-pitched voice.
Detective Moses, the situation here looks worse than in the basement.
Furia said, hiding on the back of Ezra's head. I can hear Ezra gulp from nervousness. Their distortions, each different from the rest, are killing each other in their unique ways. The strong harass and tear into the weak, as if to flaunt and demonstrate their powers. This scenery is the truest manifestation of the town's collective mind that had been suppressed until now. A glimmering variety of colorful distortions grapple and rip one another. This is what I would call the festival of the town. Can I really manage to save one of them? Noticing our presence, some of the distortions turn to us and fix their gazes. A white-furred beast in the shape of an ape that has no eyes, a red tetrahedron with 8 eyes, a yellow mantis with the head of a lion. I sense hostility from those 3 entities. Vespa and Ezra will be able to handle the ape and the mantis somehow. The tetrahedron, on the other hand, my pipe will be needed. I close my eyes, and I made up my mind. Ezra, put the pipe in my mouth, please.
Yes, Detective.
I ought to save at least one of these distortions. The choice I made in the cellar will be pointless otherwise. Ezra placed the pipe to my lips as I asked. I let out a deep, pale breath. It's the sensation of life force leaving the body. This breath is beautiful, for it is respired at the cost of life. A translucent turquoise powder taking on the hue appetite scattered over the town hall. Casting a blue glow, the powder adheres to the distortions. They begin to slow down not long after. This is a powder of death. It brings the living closer to mortality. Death signifies silence and cessation. All living beings are brought to a stop. My lungs aren't big enough to exhale a breath that can stall this many distortions at once. Still, it'll earn me some time to confront at least one distortion. Even if I can only save one of them, I must do what I can. Darn it. This might very well be my last breath.
Detective, you promised not to use that breath.
Ezra blew a gasket. I ignored her furious scolding. Vespa, don't strike the distortions unless they attack first. I'm afraid I won't be able to obey that, Dr. Moses. Vespa reaches for the hilt of his sword. It would appear that his patience has reached its limit. And yet I thought I could reason with this young man to an extent. Bang. A blast similar to the explosion of a firework was heard from outside the town hall, and footfalls rumbled the ground at the same time. I could hear the steps of multiple people, all wearing shoes, familiar footsteps I've heard in the past. A group of people in black long coats and golden masks adorned with the single symbol of an eye storm into the building. Fixers under Dia's immediate supervision. Ujat. They form a dark wave as they wield their scimitars and ruthlessly charge into the distortions. So that's how it is. The distortions, rendered immobile by the pale breath, are helplessly incapacitated one by one. I need you.
Please forgive our abruptness, Dr. Moses, and I must say you didn't disappoint. I knew I could trust you to subdue the distortions of this town without unnecessary casualty.
Bonnie June walks towards us from the town hall's entrance. This request wasn't issued by the Seven Association. Bonnie June. He once again served as Dia's obedient little lapdog. He always has. I'm a hypocrite. Once again, I couldn't save anyone. Our party and Vespa were moved to a corner of the town square where we sat down to lick our wounds. Ujat, the private military force under Diaz's command, cleanly sorted out the town's situation. They caged the distortion and make assiduous preparations to transport them, as well as treating our injuries with great care. Ezra won't say a word. She still seems upset about me using the pale breath. Then, Honey June approached us.
Dr. Moses, have this cup of warm tea as you rest.
What is Diaz planning to do with the distortions?
How can I possibly grasp what's on her mind? Anyway, I didn't quite expect you to be with Vespa Crabero, the taboo hunter of Endcorp.
Is he that famous?
Those in the know are familiar with him. I work for Seven Association, you know.
Ezra and Vespa. are sitting next to me, still keeping their mouths shut.
And I've brought news for you, Vespa Crabro, sir.
Is there any sincerity in this thing Han Hee-jun says? He knows everything he needs to know, even the fact that Vespa will be with us. What is it? Han Hee-jun handed an envelope over to Vespa. He opened it and took out the letter. Han Hee-jun handed an envelope over to Vespa. He opened it and took out the letter inside, shortly before crumpling it and throwing it to the ground. Let's see here. Who's this here? Han Hee-jun gives this poor fellow a shirt or any clothing to put on. It's embarrassing to look at, you know. The jacket and shirt Vespa was wearing have been torn to rags after the repeated battle.
As you wish, Dr. Moses.
Han Hee-jun beckoned his finger to an Ujat, who brought him a white dress shirt.
I'll invite you and your company to Lady Diaz's place once this has been tidied up.
Let me ask you something, Hee-jun.
What is it, Dr. Moses?
Is it fun to mess around, sitting on the top of my head?
It's not very pleasant, to be honest.
After saying goodbye, Han left us and walked off to the site of apprehension for the distortions. I can hear that you can see the distortion from people. Looking at me, Vespa asked. Yes. I answered, smoking a cigarette with my patched up left hand. Then tell me, Dr. Moses, what do you see from me right now? I see the tattered wings of a bee on your back. Vespa has been expelled from N-Corp. Okay. Oh, that's what he looks like, hey. Hey. Sorry, Turtles, another viewer wanted it, man. Another viewer wanted it, simple as that. And I'm not gonna... And I can't really reply, like, I can only reply after the end of a chapter because, you know, then it's not that bad. I mean, tomorrow's gonna be a League of Legends if you want to look forward to that. Then the day after, probably Doom. Something like that. Chapter 27, The Mansion. Once again, I set out for a fallen nest. We're in Han Hee-jun's car, driving down the... We're in Han Hee-jun's car, driving down the road. Ujat's vehicles follow us, loaded with the distortions they've captured. The atmosphere in the car is comparable to that of a funeral. No one dares to speak first. Only Ezra's being fidgety, struggling to withstand this mood. She's not one to break the silence, though. Where are we headed? It was Vespa. He opened his mouth and spoke in a raspy voice.
You've been invited. You'll be able to give your tired and injured bodies a much-needed rest there.
Han Hee-jun answered. We're headed to Diaz's place, I bet. This is awful. I can already picture what will happen once we arrive in my head. Right now, I have no choice but to play into her hands. So, have we passed your little test?
Yes. My personal impression is that your way of handling matters and the result it produces are excellent as I saw it, Dr. Moses. I'm certain Milady will think likewise.
Sure she will. Driving along curvy roads, we arrived at a mansion lit with fanciful lights. A backstreet inhabitant could have never dreamed to earn a tiny room in a house like this, even if they worked their tail off for their entire life. To add insult to injury, this isn't a house where Diaz permanently resides. It's a vacation home, a place as significant to her as a pair of shoes stored in the corner of a closet that may or may not be worn someday. She probably owns at least one mansion like this in every nest. After we step out of the car, Han Hee-jun leads the way for us before long. Diaz came running to me with open arms and hugged me.
Oh, the sweetheart. You must have taken great pains to get your job done. Good work, darling.
I see you're still having fun playing with me like a puppet on a string.
Don't be so cold about it. I knew you could do a wonderful job handling it. Right, Hee-jun?
Yes, indeed.
A sudden growl interrupts the conversation. Isabella is such an honest alarm.
Sorry.
Oh, Ezra, I knew you were starving, you poor baby girl. I prepared a ton of our dishes for you. Come on, let's eat together.
Can this see boy clad in yellow dine as well? I asked, pointing at Vespa. Diaz answered in a completely apathetic tone. More than 100 kinds of dishes are placed on the long dinner table, and only 6 people sit around this table. That means most of the food will go to waste. Each plate of food on this table probably costs as much as a house in a residential area of the back streets. In that sense, could this meal be considered extravagant? Such a description only applies to consumption beyond one's means. Diaz can easily afford this and more. To her, this meal would be the equivalent of purchasing a sandwich at your local Ham Ham Ping Ping. I'm sure you set up that scheme because there's something you want me to do. Cut to the chase, will you?
Can you go to L Corp's nest?
Diaz says with a merry smile. Are you referring to Lobotomy Corporation, a wing that recently fell? Vespa said impassively. Diaz replied to him without so much as giving a glance in his direction. You still haven't done away with that dream, huh?
Of course not. I'm a girl with many dreams, you know. Isn't that right, Ezra?
Yeah.
Elcorp, once again, I set out for a fallen nest. This is the first time I'm making a journey to such a place since the Smoke War. It brings back several memories. The night is long.
The night is long, Moses. Let me tell you all about the favors I want to ask of you, taking all the time we need.
Oh, for the wing's sake. Translation notes. No, we are not singing Ham and Ping Pang. Product placements into the English text. Mr. Jehoon has included them in the original dialogue. Ah, sure. Let's hear. You spent over $150 to watch. Oh man. I'm staying what another viewer wants, man. What another viewer wants. Simple as that. And no, I've already said them. I've already said. Don't have kids. And I'm single. Doesn't change anything here. Doesn't change. Now we continue. Chapter 28, our mission. Yes, never lies. She won't tell the full truth either. Are you proposing that to work for you like I used to?
I won't ask you to be an Ujat, no. I'd like to hire Miss Moses as a distortion detective.
The fallen nest of Oakcorp has now likely become a battlefield for numerous syndicates and fixers. What can the distortion detective do in the midst of such strife, fought with cold weapons?
Aw, Ezra, it's so nice to see you enjoy your meal.
Diaz said with a smile in her eyes. Ezra is conscious of Diaz's attention, but she still hastily fills her stomach with the food on the table. What's more astonishing was the speed at which Vespa consumed his share. It almost looks as if he were inhaling food, rather than dining like one normally would. Perhaps my prediction was incorrect. Maybe there won't be any food left to go to waste. Leaving the two to their meal, I continued the conversation with Diaz. Yes, you seem to be interested in capturing the distortions alive.
That's right. That's right.
Are you trying to fulfill your dreams by using them?
Half right, half wrong.
Diaz never lies. She won't tell the full truth either. That's the kind of fellow she was. She set a clear limit on how much she is willing to share. Will we find larger numbers of distortions to capture in Oakcorp's nest? Or is there a particular distortion you're keeping an eye on in that place?
Do you have any idea what's going on? Do you have any idea what's going on in the nest L right now, sweetheart?
Yes, give me a poignant stare. Pulling her eyebrows together, what an abominable look.
Lady Diaz, may I have the pleasure of explaining this part to her?
Honey June, what's in?
Okay. I'll leave it to you, Heejun. I'm a total klutz at exposition.
Honey June looked into my eyes as if to seek my non-verbal agreement before giving the brief.
Oakcorp's nest is currently under a shroud of fog. It is of unknown origin.
A shroud of fog. Another resemblance to the Smoke War.
The situation The situation isn't quite like the smoke war. This fog simply hinders any attempt to observe by obstructing vision. Anyone who enters ends up getting lost.
Still, I imagine quite the bloodshed is going on in the nest.
And as you suspect, syndicates and fixes are murdering one another in that place.
Because it's a tempting opportunity to make a fortune.
You would be correct.
Have the finger stuck into the metaphorical pie as well.
The sum and the index have made a move.
The index of all things, that's a bugger. So, what is the reason you're sending me to that war zone? I'm not seeing how any of this is relevant to the distortion. Diaz glances at me with one eye open, taking a sip of tea. Oh. Wait. Who is this here? Need to figure out.
There have been an extraordinary number of reports that are thought to be cases of the distortion in that nest.
Didn't you just say it's impossible to observe things in there?
The fog merely makes it difficult to navigate your way in the nest. We do acquire clear reports of what people encounter within the foggy nest.
You want us to capture distortions alive from there?
That is correct, and there is more. We want the distortion in a more complete form. Let the distortion progress further, foster it if necessary.
Stir people's minds even more. How far does it have to go?
Doctor, are you familiar with the term abnormality?
Abnormality? No, never heard of it.
In that case, I'll leave it up to your judgment.
I'm only a fixer that resolves distortions.
That makes you the most adequate person to the task of neutralizing them.
Fine. What comes next? Tell Ezra to carry the distortion on her shoulder. Startled, Ezra paused her busy hand and shook her head while looking me in the eye.
Ujat will come to pick it up when you do.
How convenient. Are they going to accompany us or something?
Do you need the support of Ujat?
Nope, I hate traveling in crowds.
I figured you say so.
If one is prone to getting lost within the nest and surveillance over distance is out of the question, how are they going to find us? Thea smiled and gave me a well-packaged box as though she were waiting for me to bring up the issue.
Here, a gift from my dear Moses.
It's a prosthetic arm.
A one-of-a-kind arm. You won't find anything like it in the city. I spent tons of money on this.
It's extremely unusual for DS to consider any expenditure large. Whatever this thing is, it must be a work of insanity.
With this arm equipped, Ujat will be able to locate you. You can also communicate with me.
That means I'll have to listen to your Saudi voice wherever I am. Which means that this thing is a shackle. Heavy feathers attached to my ankles that won't let me escape her notice no matter where I go. How many distortions do you want captured?
Until I'm satisfied.
I'm holding back my burning urge to punch that face.
Yes, you are to secure distortion until Lady DS is satisfied by the amount and... Do you remember the black box you saw on Taegung Produce Co?
Yes.
That box was procured from Alcorp's nest.
You're telling me to find and bring more of those boxes as well. The black box had generated distortions. Diaz collected distortions and plans to create them herself. So that's how it is. With the technology in her hands, she might be able to achieve whatever filthy dream she has. And why should I take this job?
Because this might be your chance to atone for your past, Doctor.
I took out my smoking pipe and bit it in my mouth. Please remain calm. I'm saying this sincerely. I puffed out smoke. Dr. Moses, please refrain from smoking at the dinner table. Vespa scowled at me and crouched in a deep voice.
I don't mind it. Don't give him any attention and smoke all you want, Moses dear.
Diaz retorted right away. I internally let out a deep sigh and put the pipe back in my pocket. We'd like you to lend a hand as well, Vespa, sir. No.
We'd like you to lend a hand as well, Vespa, sir.
Why is that?
Because you might be reinstated in the wing with Milady's help. I'll regard that silence as a sign of agreement.
Okay, let's say this whole deal makes sense. Where do you want this to begin?
We have multiple candidates. Laundry of Dreams, the Human Thunderbolt, the Library, Yesterday's Promise, via the Clock Circus, the Church of Gears, Mad Eating Scent.
That enough. Huh. Library. That's in the outskirts though. Yesterday's Promise is... Oh, I think he's dead. Same as 8 o'clock Circus. And Church of Gears. Oh, problematic, but whatever. Long and graceful names. That's how the association usually designates names for cases. I'll start with the Laundry of Dreams. It's great.
Urban Legend.
An urban legend. Should be a good exercise.
The Library is an urban legend as well.
The library is an urban legend as well. What do you think about that one?
I don't get good vibes out of it.
Understood.
I'll be taking off now.
What? But Moses, I wouldn't mind if you stayed here and played with me for a week or so.
I left her behind and headed outside. I enjoy a bit of solitude on the terrace, smoking from my pipe. It's quite a contrast to the scenery I usually see from my office. The yard of this mansion seems endless. Beautiful lights illuminate the vast garden.
Detective, are you really going to be alright?
Ezra came to my side and asked, "Have you mellowed out, Ezra?"
Yeah, I get it. That was the only option you had. But promise not to use that pale breath ever again, for real this time. I know what it does. If you use that power, your lifespan gets...
Ezra, I know that better than anyone. Of course I value my own life. I made that choice to use it so we could survive.
Okay.
Go to bed now. We've got work to do tomorrow.
Detective, about the atonement thing Hiju and Sanbei mentioned, are you really going to do it?
Yes. The morning draws on. I equipped the prosthetic arm DS gave me and prepared myself for the trip. Honey June is waiting for us at the garden entrance, next to a black van. Vespa and Ezra are loading the boot of the van with various gadgets. I place my pipe in my mouth.
Lady DS departed at dawn for someplace else. She wanted to say her apologies for not giving you a proper farewell.
Right. I puffed out a smoke from the pipe.
And Miss Yuria, there's no need to pose as a normal teddy bear in front of me.
Honey June quietly spoke to Yuria, who was sitting on my shoulder. The plush doll flinched a little.
Ujat will set up an outpost near Nest Elm. You may head into the nest first.
Guess we'll have to go by car with Ezra as our driver. Maybe I should bring sickness pills. I'll take the wheel. Vespa showed up from behind and walked towards the driver's seat. Are you a good driver? You won't be disappointed. I got in the van with a bitter smile. This pitiful young man has become yet another toy in Diaz's hands.
Doctor, I will be contacting you later.
I gestured at him to sod off. Soon afterwards, the van's engine roared to life as it began to move. It's the beginning of another darned journey. And you're saying, Ace Attorney, I would rather not. Rather not, Turtles, I'd rather not. And I'm also not going to tell you who. I'm not going to tell you who either. Let's drink a bit of water here. We're going to need it. That's better. Chapter 29. Safe Passage. Vespa returned to the driver's seat. The ride is surprisingly comfortable. Vespa was right in that I wouldn't be disappointed in his driving skills. A good vehicle has met an excellent driver. We're quietly driving along the highway leading to Elcorp's Nest. In the back seat, I opened the envelope Han Hee-jun gave me. It's a brief report on the Nest and the Laundry of Dreams. The Distortion is located in the back street of Nestel, situated in the southern part of the city. Nest is currently covered in a veil of fog due to the fall of Lobotomy Corporation, the Wing. Its nest is doomed to collapse as a result. No wing falls with grace. They leave a permanent scar on the city before crumbling to dust. In the case of the Cell Corp, that would be the fog. They say everyone loses their way in that fog, and a variety of syndicates and fixes in the nest are drawing their weapons against one another. You think that the distortion is rampant in this chaos. It will be akin to a battlefield for sure. Skipping past the tidbit of info on the Misty Nest, I skimmed through the report on the Laundry of Dreams. It was degraded from an urban plague to an urban legend. According to the report, it was initially designated as an urban plague after wiping out an entire office of fixers. But it has since stepped down a grade as it did not cause any notable events afterwards. Okay, so, what is the task we're supposed to take care of? Vespa asks from the driver's seat. Eyes facing forward. I was just about to read over that part.
An ordinary coin-op on the outside, but after you use it, you come out a completely different person.
Yuri read out the report from the top of my shoulder.
Detective, is this gonna be a location-type distortion like the mock exam one?
Ezra turned her head and said from the passenger seat, "Are you referring to some kind of test?" Vespa spoke, his gaze still fixed on the road ahead. "Ezra, tell him about the classifications we established while doing our detective work."
Got it.
Ezra rummaged through her bag for a notebook. It has a yellow cover plastered with stickers, a glaring hallmark of Ezra's possessions. She riffles the pages until she puts a finger on a certain page, as if she spotted something.
Let the senior give Yuria the protege and Vespa the baby bee of the team a lecture on the distortion.
I could see a vein pop out between Vespa's brows right as she said that. Ezra studies his face for a moment, then continues her lesson. And approaching Vespa the baby bee. Yeah, even too fond.
It's some high-quality intel organized by Detective Moses and her capable sidekick Ezra, all based on the experience of working as a distortion detective. As you all know, our mentor Moses can see the distortion. Distortion is a name given to this phenomenon by the HANA Association, according to the data registered to the association database.
Crap, Wait, no. It's the wrong person. No, it is, right,
It's a phenomenon where people would suddenly...
I don't know.
It's a phenomenon where people would suddenly transform and take monstrous shapes.
I heard about the phenomenon in relation to the pianist case of District 9.
Yep, you two are on the right track.
Before I knew it, the drive turned into a little class.
However, our mentor Detective Moses thinks there's more to the distortion than just people turning into monsters. She sees the distortion as a person's mind bursting forth inside something tangible.
The detective can see the distortion before it actually manifests.
That's how our office can solve cases before the distortion fully manifests.
Is it up to Moses to determine whether a case of the distortion has fully manifested?
It's Detective Moses, little Junior Vespa.
Vespa pops another vein on his forehead. Is it up to Detective Moses to determine the severity?
Yep. She's classified different types of distortion and the stages of progression. Every distortion has a cause behind it. From that, we connect the dots to explain how that cause was responsible for the person distorting. Next, we give the explanation to the subject in a way that they can accept. If they do, we can resolve the case before the distortion manifests.
Can the same be done to cases of the distortion that already have manifested? Vespa turned his head towards me unmasked. That I quietly answered. Depends on the progressing category. I updated my knowledge on the distortion after the recent series of events. I want you to pay attention to this one, Ezra.
Yes, Detective.
Ezra turned to a new page and picked up a pen.
Until recently,
I only categorized distortions by type, but I've included severity in my newest classification system. Incubation period, early stage, middle stage, and terminal stage.
it's like the staging of a disease.
Miriam made a snarky remark. She's not wrong. However, to me, the distortion is a disease. Most people's distortions are in the incubation period. As you're all aware, I can see the distortion before it manifests. Thus, I decided to title the earliest stage where the distortion becomes visible to me as the incubation period. I'd like to know the severity of the bee's wings you can see from me. In my opinion, your distortion is at an early stage, although I'm speaking from my subjective point of view from what I can see. Distortions in the incubation period are mostly fragmentary. An early stage distortion is still minor, but it assumes a definite form, and I can feel the early symptoms of it. An example is the fact that I can feel the breeze generated by the beats of your wings, Vespa. No one else here would be able to sense it, only I can see and perceive it. This is what I classify as an early symptom. If it's only something you can feel, it must have been a useful ability. It must have been a useful ability for you to find and resolve distortions. I think so too. But sometimes, it makes me feel unwanted sensations and pain no one else could feel. Rumble. The car shook a little. We came off the highway and entered a narrow road toward Elcorp's nest. A thin veil of mist obscures the view out the window. The time is 1 p.m. Sunlight scatters and shimmers in the mist. We'll listen to the rest of the explanation later. A group of a dozen or 2 people are blocking the way. Aren't they fixes or syndicate members that seized hold of this area? I want to avoid unnecessary conflict if possible. Vespa stop the car. The group approaches us. Knock knock. One of them raps the car window. Vespa lowered it in response.
Dirty carrier. Going on a little family trip, are ya?
A woman puts her arm on the windowsill and asks in a serious manner. She has Irizumi tattooed on her arms. In her other hand is a cigarette. The Irizumi on her arms is no doubt an augmentation tattoo. People carrying katanas at the girdle stand in front of the car, staring at us with their arms crossed. What's your business? What's your business? Vespa inquired with his eyes closed, not even giving a second of a glance at the woman. Ezra has her hand over her dimensional bag, preparing for combat. It seems we're dealing with the syndicate.
Let's see if I can do it here. You're about to enter Kurokuma clan's territory, you see. You're gonna have to pay a small toll to pass.
Kurokuma clan. I'm unfamiliar with the name. Anyhow, it's interesting to note how syndicates in the southern side of the city tend to be dressed in composed clothes, like those in the north.
Detective?
Ezra, just give them what they want. We're giving money-hungry scoundrels what they ask for, no matter how high they set the bid. It'll still be well within the budget Theus gave us.
How much do you need?
Ezra's face puckered as she asked the syndicate member, reluctant to give away her money.
Well...
Bewildered by her generous attitude, the syndicate member looked us up and down.
2 million and...
Yeah.
It seems Ezra begrudges our money going to them. However, I don't mind the loss as long as it is the only thing we have to give up. There's no reason to take a gamble against a syndicate with unknown power and affiliation just to save money. Ezra took a bundle of cash out of her bag and started counting it.
Change my mind, 10 million.
The goon said with a chuckle. Staring down the pile of money must have made them cuckoo.
Detective.
Give it to them.
Okay.
Ezra passed the 10 million on through the driver's side window. Meanwhile, Vespa remains perfectly still, his eyes shut. I can see that this syndicate has some experience, considering they didn't go as far as demanding every coin from us. Rookies tend to keep raising the stakes until it bites them in the ankle. On the other hand, the more experienced ones assess the opponent's capacity and stop at an acceptable price.
I'd be on your way, and cutie, you can have this.
Ezra was handed a black plastic plate.
It's a pass. Okay, it's a pass. It seems to let you freely get through. outposts from any area under Kurokuma clan's rule. I'm Yuri, one of the vice captains of the Kurokuma clan. You know, I like you gals. Why don't you tell my name when you drop by a bar for a drink? I'll be the tap for ya.
That was resolved smoothly.
Have a happy, sappy little family trip.
Vice Captain Yuri ground her cigarette on the side of the mirror of our vehicle. Her head was gone in the blink of an eye. Oh no. Oh, for a Vespa. Vespa's fist cleanly removes the Vice Captain's head from her body. With a single thrust, he calmly steps out of the car and cleans the cigarette ash off the side mirror. The unexpected events had left everyone quiet. Vespa proceeded to grab his Wando from the side of the driver's seat and charged into the group of thugs. Amidst the thin fog, flashes of yellow light shine, followed by spurts of blood. Another moment of silence passed. Vespa returned to the driver's seat. The next time you want to cause a pointless bloodshed, you'll do it over my cold, dead body, I said, placing a hand on my forehead. I'll try not to. Vespa grabbed the wheel and started driving. Okay, have a good one, Turtles, have a good one. We have 12 more chapters to go, eh? Chapter 30, Chatter. You could publish an encyclopedia of distortions with all that knowledge. Bit of water here. That's gonna be helpful, hopefully here. You said you weren't a fan of killing, yet now you've got blood on your blade. I didn't kill them because I wanted to. It was simply retribution for what they had done. And that gives you the right to decide who gets to live or die. There was a mound of severed heads behind them. I suspect those belong to the people who couldn't afford the toll. What a hero you've become. You'll have to follow every order I make if you want to receive DS's aid to get your job back. If our mission ends in failure because of your imprudent behavior, Vespa, you'd better forget about returning to N-Corp, because DS will sink you to the rock bottom and ensure that you spend the rest of your life in misery. I will keep that in mind. Vespa replied as he slowly closed his eyes. Ezra sits next to him, seemingly lost in thought and fiddling with the plate Vice Captain Yuri gave her. Beneath her feet are bundles of cash that amount to 10 million. An, hurriedly collected back from the dead syndicate member. The bills have smidgens of blood on them, but there should be no problem using it.
Detective, maybe we can still use this plate.
Ezra turned to me and asked, There won't be any problem using it to pass through turf under the Kurokuma clan, of course. I don't think there's anyone that could figure out who killed Vice Captain Yuri.
No, that's not what I meant. Could I get free drinks with this?
So that's what she was looking forward to. Where there's alcohol, there is usually snack. It is a little wonder that she's showing interest. Ezra, you can eat anything you want, alcohol or whatever. With the money DS gave us, he may very well order food that has never existed before. Vespa's ears twitched slightly. This young man is quite a hearty eater, isn't he? Give me that plate.
Okay.
The word Kurokumakai is written in kanji on the front side of the plate. On the back side is handwriting that appears to be the signature of Vice Captain Yuri. This might be handy later on. Oh, hey boys, but this morning we're reading, so I'm not going to be able to respond to chat until the end of chapter. Usually, man. Just gonna tell you straight up. Let's see here, later on.
Detective Moses, if I'm not mistaken, the laundry of dreams is a location type similar to my atelier.
Yuri asked from my shoulder, as if the commotion didn't happen. It seems Yuria has gotten a lot less talkative since we started heading for L-Corp's nest. Perhaps she has difficulty maintaining the cyclement. I should talk with her about that soon. Could you explain what the location type is, Dr. Moses? Vespa showed interest as well. As the scout at Vespa tried to correct him, and Vespa retaliated with a gaze just as fierce. I can almost see sparks flying from the steering contest. Ezra, I don't care how Vespa refers to me, so don't waste your energy pointing it out every single time.
But he's the newest and youngest member of our office.
Vespa's veins pop out on his forehead once again. Don't.
Okay.
Ezra conceded, and I resumed the conversation. A location type distortion is a certain spots being subject to distortion, as the name suggests. But you describe the distortion as a phenomenon that individual humans manifest. Are you saying that a person can transform into a location? Precisely. In most cases, it takes the form of a place or building that is unable to move on its own. It's akin to a trap to the average person. You should be mindful of the fact that a location type distortion is not the same thing as a distortion encroaching upon its surroundings.
The stronger that encroaching distortion is, the more warped the area around it gets.
Ezra chipped in. Like she said, the distortion can overflow and the powerful one can influence its surroundings if left uncontrolled. That was the case with the carb. The most recent case of the distortion I solved. It was a child who turned into a giant carp. It would generate a pool of depressive water around it.
That's because sadness is most commonly distorted as a form of water.
Ezra butted in. Yes, melancholy is like water. Perhaps we could talk about categories for such things at a later date. Anyway, a strong distortion can alter the area around it and become a host to subordinate entities. It's easy to confuse it for a location-type distortion. You could publish an encyclopedia of distortions with all that knowledge. Vespa made a sarcastic yet harmless remark. Book. That's funny. I'd be surprised if there's any library that's willing to collect a book like that.
Yeah, Detective. That sounds so educational and fun.
Just as Ezra spoke, the car was slowly brought to a stop. Dr. Moses, I'll need you to tell me the directions from here on out. It looks like we've fully entered Elcorp's nest. Glimpses of buildings can be seen in the mist. The nest might have shone brightly once, but now it is sunken in fog. This fog feels quite different from the fume that covered the city during the smoke warm. Unlike the smoke that rose to the sky, the mist sinks to the floor like a pool of stagnant water. It's similar to the property of sorrow we just talked about. Could this be a manifestation of someone's serious melancholy? Regardless, I'm the only one who can find a way anywhere in this thick veil of mist, or rather, the prosthetic arm DS gave me will figure out a way for us. I scanned the barcode printed on the report of the Laundry of Dreams as instructed. Need a bit of water.
Urban legend case, the Laundry of Dreams. Guiding to the most recent observed site. Turn right 300 meters ahead.
Voice came out of the arm. A vocal guide in this day and age. Come to think of it, this may be a more effective method than hologram-based navigation in a fog as thick as this. Vespa, follow the instructions of this voice. Yoy. The car slowly began moving again. Then Vespa opened his mouth. The name Handy June said our work is to capture the distortion. How are we going to seize that location, if I may ask? Trinket. As I said moments ago, the distortion will expand and warp its surroundings as it becomes more powerful. In other words, its influence will shrink as we neutralize its power. We will have to weaken it. We will have to weaken it enough to fit in our hand, or at least the trunk of our van. This van is no ordinary vehicle. The entire cargo compartment is a massive dimensional bag. Since it was provided by DS, it should have no problem carrying absurdly large objects. However, distortions are ultimately people. It's not a good idea to store people in a dimensional bag. I have no choice but to hope that DS kept that in mind. and that we can load the trunk with distortions anyway. Do we have to go into the so-called location-type distortions ourselves, then? Yes. You said they are akin to traps. There is a risk that we will be killed as soon as we set foot in there, if they're not. Distortions are not weapons of murder. They normally aren't artificial creations with a specific purpose. What they are is a cry for recognition of their mental afflictions. As you suggested, distortions that harbor a murderous intent may try to kill us. But I can tell if a distortion has such designs. That means our lives lie in the hand of your judgment, Dr. Moses.
Of course you should. All we gotta do is trust a detective, bitty baby bee.
Vespa popped a vein once again. Ezra seems to be enjoying it at this point. The conversation halted there. Only the mechanical voice of my arm would break the silence. The area is being strangely quiet. When I looked to my left, the red teddy bear was lolling on my shoulder. Her synchronization with the cyclament appears to be unstable, as I suspected. Even if the teddy bear were to stop moving, that wouldn't mean the death of her. Her real body is under the protection of Dougly Office, after all. The teddy bear suddenly flinched.
Detective Moses.
I see you're having trouble maintaining your cyclament right now.
Yeah. My consciousness is fading the deeper we get into this nest. And the thicker the mist gets.
Rest up for a while. I'll keep the teddy bear with me.
Thank you. I'll take a short nap. I have to work like a dog.
The teddy bear's voice trailed off as its head was lowered.
You have arrived at your destination.
A large green neon sign was flashing sporadically before us. The bright neon light turned the fog around it green. The laundry of dreams were there, Dr. Moses. Alright, be prepared, everyone. Ezra took her dimensional bag, and Vespa took his sword and harpoon as we got out of the car. I placed the smoking pipe in my mouth. We walked to the entrance of the laundromat, and I puffed out smoke while I closely observed the exterior of the building. The tobacco smoke scattered into the air and became one with the fog. Now then, let's retrieve the distortion. We entered the laundry of dreams. Kurikuma clans were written out with entirely Romanized Japanese to reflect that it has been written in kanji, The word kanji is also used to reflect the source culture of the syndicates of Japan, Gotcha. Give me a second, gotta blow my nose. And we'll continue. And I'm not responding to the question turtles. Okay. Oh, just a bit of water helps. Chapter 31. The Laundry of Dreams. This is just like solving relationship issues between people. The joints of the glass door creaked as we entered the laundromat. A spacey and aged washateria, housing 26 front-load washing machines. Faded fluorescent lamps shine over embrowned floor tiles. A few bugs buzz away near the light, and an old pop song is playing from the speaker on the ceiling. I assume you deem that this distortion is not a threat to us, seeing that you walked into the place willingly, Dr. Moses. Vespa spoke, scanning the surroundings with his eyes. Ezra was watching something in front of one of the washing machines. A grade 3 fixer and a colleague for victim here.
An office was annihilated and people went missing, right, Detective?
Not for long. They were found in another place, as different people altogether.
What exactly do you mean when you say they were different people altogether?
In the most literal sense, their appearance stayed the same, but inside, they were completely dissimilar from before. No one could recognize who they'd become.
Detective, over here, I found a washing machine that's running right now.
Ezra waved me over. The machine rattles, laundry tumbling and spinning inside. I place my smoking pipe in my mouth. Laundry. Surely it won't be anything ordinary. Though, it is hard to see what's inside while it's running. Yet it would be a pretty reckless move to forcefully stop the machine. For now, I'll have to observe the place more. Dr. Moses, I see a storage and utility room there. I puffed out smoke and walked to the door Vespa pointed at. Was this laundromat not a self-service facility? If an owner is present, that will make this a different type of distortion from what I expected. The existence of a room dedicated to collecting laundry suggests that the owner of the laundromat manually cleans the clothes customers entrust to them. However, I don't see a cash register or any other sort of station that a staff member would work at. Vespa, open that door. And Ezra, look around a little more. Roger.
Roger.
Upon the door to the storage room, a refreshing scent of fabric softener wafted out through the air. The sight that unfolded before our eyes, however, was anything but refreshing. This is a butcher shop. Human skin is suspended up on hangers. Ah, switching skin, eh? I see how it is. I blew out a puff of tobacco smoke, peel off a human skin, and wash their inside clean. That's what this laundry of dreams is. Typical of the city. Provocative procedure like skinning humans alive. Provocative procedure like skinning humans alive, or some such, doesn't come as a surprise anymore. The next question is its purpose. I have to wonder, does the act of washing signify purification, or does it imply change? I have a feeling that the latter is more likely to be the case. There's desires to become someone else and stand out among the stereotyped city folk. It should be stronger than the desire to get clean, at the very least. In a coin-op such as this, the act of washing is as simple as putting clothes in the washing machine and inserting a coin. Looking at the human hide that's hung here, it seems the people who visited the place took off their own skin and left it here. When did it happen? Right after entering the laundromat, after inserting the coin. But wouldn't the laundry have to be inside the machine first? It's still a hazy mystery. If this space was deceiving people's perceptions, my eyes would have caught the process. I don't see a sign of such illusion yet. I guess I should investigate the washing machines once again. Let's go back out.
Detective, I can't get the washing machines to work using ordinary coins.
Ezra, you dimwit. Ezra, you dimwit. Who told you to fiddle with the washing machine? Don't mess with the distortion while I'm not around.
Okay.
Ezra answered in a dispirited voice. There are several problems when a person who can't see the distortion is involved in solving cases of the distortion. For instance, they might walk into a gaping mouth full of teeth that I can vividly see. Or be enticed into doing something not knowing that they're being pulled away by shadowy hands. Thus, it takes a person who can see the various sides of the distortion to aptly handle it.
Detective, would it matter if I got a coin from the exchange machine here?
I put my hand on my forehead. Ezra is the type to leap into action before putting any thought into it. I gather my thoughts while Ezra acts. To solve a distortion, someone has to be a guinea pig. Still, the curiosity and boldness of this child is quite a challenge to handle, even now, even for me. Give that to me.
Okay.
Rumble. With a loud noise, the room trembled up and down. The coin slipped from Ezra's hand while she was trying to pass it over to me. Ezra, grab that coin. Before he could finish that sentence, Ezra swiftly moved her palm below the coin. The thing seemed to land in Ezra's hand, but it won't stop falling. It makes a hole in her hand and reaches the floor, as if it has to. The coin rolls around the floor before it falls down the drain. Blank.
Ow.
Ezra groaned, holding her punctured right hand. Dr. Moses, look behind you. Following Vespa's words, I turned around. The door to the storage room vanished. A loud mechanical noise came at a distance. Something's already happening. The coin Ezra acquired couldn't have been dispensed from a vending machine for no reason. A coin exchange machine. Something was traded away for the coin. I held the smoking pipe in my mouth. The space is distorting. Did the ceiling just switch places with the floor? I blew out tobacco smoke. As Vespa noticed, the room is slowly twisting and twirling.
Detective, is it just me? Or does your body feel icky and stuffy?
Ezra's body is slowly being filled with Ezra's body is slowly being filled with filth that resembles viscous. Ezra's body is slowly being filled with filth that resembles viscous blood. Where I can see the distortion, I need quick wit and a good sense. I need to be able to tell if what I'm seeing is a sign only visible to me, or a manifestation that everyone can perceive. The answer is in experience, and experience tells me that I'm likely the only one who can see that filth.
Detective, do you remember? I was a coward during the war. I won't be forgiven either, right?
This topic again. The memories of that day are one of the subjects commonly brought up whenever a distortion evokes Ezra's traumas. The memories of Smoke War. They haunt Ezra and I constantly. I've become an expert at dealing with such trauma thanks to that. The memories will be unbearable to her, and she will cause some kind of trouble as a result.
Away with his dirty body.
I heard the sound of something being unzipped. The skin of the human we knew as Ezra was stripped off her from head to shoulders, knees, and toes. The side of a person that no one wants to see. It could only be described as a form that I can't dare to look at. A heap of desires. I couldn't stand the sight, so I shut my eyes. Ezra. Vespa, keep your eyes closed. I bit into the smoking pipe and exhaled a white breath. The room was filled with mist. Vespa's mind could be affected if he sees her current form. I immediately breathed in, and let out a violet breath. I wrapped the violet whip around the silhouette that I think is Ezra. And do your absolute best to stand still. I can't handle two people doing idiotic things at once. Understood. Vespa responded. I got the pattern down. Once a human takes off their skin, they'll put it in one of the washing machines. Then they'll head over to the storage room and wear another person's husk. Wearing the clean and new clothing, they leave the laundromat as a brand new individual. If Ezra reaches that point, there won't be much he can do. I will be losing her forever. To avoid that, I stopped her in her tracks somehow. Distortions are solved through contradiction. The deeds that are considered natural and mandatory here must be denied and reversed, making the person wear the contaminated shell back before it could be washed. Such action will weaken the distortion of the laundry of dreams. What can we do to make her put her own skin back on then? Forcefully put it on her? No. She must wear it voluntarily. She has to wear her own shell, knowing that it's still a filthy husk. That's how we can deny this place. This space, can I not slash it? There's no guarantee that it won't backfire. Destructive measures should be taken as a last resort. That means it's not entirely out of the question. I shall prepare myself in that case. Vespa kept his eyes closed and put his hand on the sheath of his sword. It's a huge relief that he wasn't afflicted with a distortion's influence. I have no clues about Vespa's past or his trauma. Learning of his past will be a process of trial and error, no doubt. The time will come one day, and it will be unavoidable. I'll have to take my time to know him. That is to say, I know well how to handle Ezra after spending much time with her. Tell me, do you think your current self is filthy?
I got too much blood on my hands. I'm dirty. I hate myself.
I like you for who you are, even if you think it's unclean. First right, without redundancy, I say out exactly what I think of Ezra straight to her.
Really?
The answer is easy, but it's always an ordeal for me to speak it out. I really do. Ezra is conscious of others' attentions, especially mine. I like that side of her, all things considered. I can't bring myself to hate her. Ezra is my coworker and subordinate, and it's my responsibility to take care of her. The mass of flesh that is probably Ezra picks up the smelly, filthy husk and wears it once more. The laundromat stops twirling and bending, and gradually returns to how it looked before. Soon afterwards, the space begins to shrink. Vespa, get Ezra and shove the hell out of here. Vespa, get Ezra and shove the hell out of here. We quickly sprinted towards the front door. The cold evening air and the moisture of damp drizzle assailed my nostrils. We managed to escape safely. The laundry of dreams was behind us, reduced to the size of a small toy house. Has this case been solved? Vespa asked, carrying Ezra on his shoulders. Quite. Is it always like this? This wasn't nearly as dramatic as I expected. I didn't even have to help. Only because I knew who I was dealing with. That's why Ezra and I are working together. I placed my pipe in my mouth. This case was tame and simple compared to other recent events. And staying still was a big enough help. If you were in Ezra's shoes, I might not have been able to do anything. Besides, the distortion is ultimately a human affair. Oftentimes, things are covered up and details are glossed over. That sounds like how human relationships go. I puffed out smoke. He's dead on the nail. This is just like solving human relationship and issues between people. If I try to ignore the root of the issue and turn away from it, it can be ended on an ambiguous note. In this case, I didn't bother to understand the cause of or process of the distortion, nor did I try to make the subject understand it, because it's not my business, because it wasn't necessary. Dr. Moses, if our objective was to solve the distortions rather than capture them, would it be possible to revert the laundromat to a human? It should be. The steps will be more complicated than what we did just now. Are you curious? The distortion is also similar to human relationships in that the problem gets harder to solve if I try to face it directly and bring it to a definite conclusion. Never mind. If it's something I must know, you will elucidate it at some point. I picked up the laundry of dreams and stored it in the trunk. At this size, there's no need to call Ujat to help retrieve it. Vespa laid Ezra on the back of the seat of the vehicle. Did you two participate in the smoke war? I don't feel like talking about that moment. I don't feel like talking about that at the moment. Understood. Vespa took the driver's seat. I shook ash off my smoking pipe and sat in the passenger seat. Then I manipulated my prosthetic arm. Beep beep. Honey June. Honey June. Yes, doctor. A detestable, solid voice comes out of the arm. We've taken care of the laundry of dreams. We're moving on to the case of the human thunderbolt. Looks like you've solved the case safe and sound. I'm ending the call. Hold on, doctor. Did you meddle with the Kurokuma clan by any chance? We did. So we somehow found it out. He sure is a competent informant, and he's most certainly going to give me a chewing out for this. The Kurokuma clan is a Sum subsidiary. I suggest avoiding conflict with a finger if you wish to complete the mission. as if I'm some kid that needs his nagging. Beep beep. The Sum is decent compared to the Index. At least I won't be talking to a wall. Dr. Moses. Dr. Moses. Are you scared? What? Dr. Moses. I think it's all Vespa here. I think. Dr. Moses. Are you scared that we might have to face a finger? If we ever have been to confront the Sum, please let me lend my strength. This child has its stories, I see. That's up to me to decide, depending on the situation. Vespa seemed to think for a moment with his eyes closed. Alright, the car slowly trudged through the mist. 10 to go. We've done, we started 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 36, yeah. Should be able to do it. Get more water here. Water is very important. It's very important when reading. Unless you want a very dead voice, and you're definitely going to get it if you don't. Chapter 32. The Human Thunderbolt. A purple humanoid form watches us from afar. The difference in scenery between day and night is small here. but I can tell from the gradually shrinking halo of light in the foggy sky that it's evening. We seem to be approaching our destination. The car shakes pretty badly, running over some form of object scattered on the road. They're likely corpses. On the way, I read one of the case reports Han Hee-jun gave me. The human thunderbolt created urban plague. It says bolts of lightning will thrash about in the mist when it's present. The human thunderbolt leaves completely charged. The human thunderbolt leaves completely charged. The human thunderbolt leaves completely charred bodies in its wake, emitting a burning smell. Lightning is an electrical phenomenon. Thus, it's related to hysteria or neurosis. Sparks fly off and conduct electricity, leaving sharp and tingling wounds on anyone that stands around it. It'll be fast and painful. Dr. Moses, someone is after us. With the smoke, I see dark figures running alongside the car through the window. This vehicle most certainly isn't moving at a slow speed.
Detective, they put out a knife.
Ezra shouted, "We will suffer a considerable setback if we lose this car. ES gave us this van, so it won't break easily. However, we don't know what the unidentified group is capable of. We have to make a careful choice here. Vespa, can you give them the slip without damaging the car? It won't be an easy feat, I'm afraid. Then we'll stop it right away." The car lurched to a sudden halt, creating a loud noise. The group surrounded the van in an instant. Is it another syndicate like the Kurokuma clan? Whatever they are, they probably won't stand a chance against Ezra and Vespa, and we're less hesitant to get violent after spilling blood here once. Ezra, Vespa, get out of the car. This is different from the Kurokuma clan situation. Now, we're in the middle of Elcorp's nest, where there are many variables. We have to promptly prepare ourselves for battle. There we go. So. There we go. As soon as I got out of the car, a burning stench struck my nose. Might be the supposed trace of the human thunderbolt, according to the report. Another particular scent struck my nose. It's the acidic smell of tobacco. This smell. Those in the know are familiar with it. Vespa drew his wando right away. Ezra slipped on Alice's workshop gauntlet and cracked her knuckles. The figures in the mist revealed themselves. We know this one, haha. They actually appear in Library of Runa as an event. The smiling faces, the wearing masks of the Haho village. The syndicate is characterized by their steel masks burning from ear to ear. They smoke performance-enhancing narcotics from the gigantic pipes they're carrying. We've run into an urban nightmare class syndicate while trying to solve an urban plague case. It's not an unlikely occasion. The syndicate started out in the east of the city, but their influence has grown over time and now they're all over. Fine. Are you here to eat? Are you here to eat us? I placed my pipe in my mouth. They can be conversed with at the very least. A moment of silence passed.
Detective, why won't those chatty guys speak at all?
Keeping her eyes to the front, Ezra asked me this in a tiny voice. I'm wondering the same thing. They're strangely quiet for how talkative they usually are. There seems to be about 7 of them. That's not a small number. Smiling faces quietly bite their giant smoking pipes, inhaling and exhaling smoke. I blew out smoke as well. Their movement is different. They're known for their uncanny ways of acting, but something is particularly odd about this group. They twitch their bodies as if they were wooden puppets, and there are faint sparks of electricity flowing through them. They're coming. Okay, they're coming. Vespa said, puffing out smoke in the mist. The smiling faces commenced running to us. Their massive smoking pipes doubled as blunt weapons. It also contained the hidden blade sheathed in the bowl of the pipe, sort of like a sword stick. Ezra faced 2 of them charging at us. One of them swung a smoking pipe in a large arc, and she struck the bowl of the pipe with her fist. It made a small dent in the pipe, throwing the attacker off balance.
Ow, detective, my fist hurts so bad.
Whining, she accelerated her other hand with the Alice Workshop gauntlet and struck her fist into the chest. The blow sent the opponent flying into a wall. The other one swung a blade at Ezra's arm. It let out a purple breath to slow the blade down. Ezra took out a Nestor hammer in the meantime and hit the aggressor on the forehead. Clang. The metallic objects rang as they clashed. The hammer got crumpled from the impact. The mask, on the other hand, is intact. Vespa takes the rest of them on the other side. Yellow traces danced in the air like lightning bugs. Just then, Vespa turned to us and pitched the harpoon he'd been carrying at his waist without hesitation. Whoosh! The harpoon tore through the air and hit the left shoulder of the smiling face standing before Ezra, making them drop their weapon. Ezra immediately took out her Stigma Workshop blade and stabbed it into her opponent. The Stigma blade makes a sizzling sound in their chest. Paying no attention to that piercing injury, the opponent hit her lower jaw with their knee. Those bizarre gestures. The smiling faces are being controlled by something, and the human thunderbolt has to be the culprit, judging from the purple electric discharges flowing through their bodies. Ezra and Vespa aren't overwhelmed by the smiling faces, but they can't seem to gain the upper hand on them either. I drew a deep breath, seeing how strong and agile they are. The violet whip I usually wield won't even reach them, let alone keep them in place. I let out a deep violet breath. The pipe morphed into 6 chains. Ezra, throw that harpoon at me. Ezra pulled the harpoon from the smiling face's shoulder. In that brief moment of vulnerability, one of the smiling faces smacked her in the cheek with a smoking pipe. Pow. Ezra's head was knocked upward, but she managed to stay upright and tossed the harpoon. It buzzed in the air before landing at my feet. I tied the violet chain around the tip of the harpoon. Vespa recalled the harpoon right on cue. It was then flung with a roar and nailed on one of the smiling faces straight away. As the harpoon was lodged in them, the chains coiled around their body. Their movement is restrained, much like the ship with its anchor dropped. The harder they struggled to break free, the harder the chains tightened. The squeezing pain around my brain grows worse too. The pain is killing me. My head swims, and my mind wavers. However, the chains will disappear if I let go of my consciousness. Ezra didn't miss his chance. She threw a low kick at the injured target. The attack broke their leg, bringing them down to their knees. Then she manifested cyclament on her other leg and delivered a kick straight to their head. The cranium was smashed along with the mask. Vespa speedily retrieved the harpoon and hurled it at another one. Vespa earns time with the harpoon. And Ezra lands a finishing blow. At a stable pace, the spawning faces are defeated one after another. Before long, Vespa took the head off of the last of them.
Phew, we somehow made it out alive, Detective.
I nodded, putting my pounding head in my hands. Dr. Moses, these were not like the ones I knew. Something seemed to be manipulating them. I walked to one of the decapitated heads of the spawning faces on the ground, and removed the mask. A grinning face on a burnt head was still there underneath it. Light flashed from afar, Kercom. A crack of thunder followed it shortly afterward. Suddenly, a streak of light zipped past us. The light burned the fog in its path. It cleared off mist within a radius of 10 meters. Around 500 corpses were revealed before us, all burnt to a crisp.
Detective.
Ezra isn't surprised at the sight of the bodies, but rather by what they're doing. Every burnt corpse began to move at the same time, twitching and twisting. Could it be moving the body through electric stimuli? There's corpses lying on the road and bodies inside buildings. All the scorched cadavers nearby rise and rush at us. The smiling faces we had just slain also stood up, loudly folding and snapping their bodies. This is no urban plague. I placed a hand on my forehead. A purple humanoid form watches us from afar. Purple certainly is an uppity color. Vespa, does the human thunderbolt appear to be frozen in place for now? Vespa carefully squinted at it. It's moving. It's not stationary. The human thunderbolt is moving from place to place to send electric currents, controlling the corpses with the stimuli. The plan is the same. I stop it in its tracks, and you cut it down. How much time will we need until then? 10 minutes, Vespa nodded. Let me ask you back, how much time will it take for you to do it? A second is all I ask. That's dependable. That's dependable. Vespa will handle the smiling faces in front of us. Meanwhile, the living, swarming corpses appear to be regular citizens. Ezra should be able to fend them off on her own. Ezra, protect me. Ezra, protect me. Don't get yourself killed doing it.
Got it. You can count on me, Detective.
Man, my throat really ain't happy. Technically, I could do like 2 hours here, and then maybe like, I don't know, I do an hour and put in a video for YouTube or whatever. Could do that, but I don't know, man. Don't know. Don't think another reading stream would be great after all. We do want to finish it after all. Sorry, I had to get the phlegm off my throat, or off my, vocal cords. It was becoming problematic. Now, whatever. Chapter 33, Neurosis. It actively moves around, gnawing at those nearby and steering them. Neurosis. A spear of stress, harmful radiation. A prison that constricts oneself at the same time. A symptom that exacerbates the more one hurts others. The temperamental, cerebral stimuli and irritation are given the physical form of electricity. When the electricity flows through the body, it burns with an uncontrollable rast. It's not quite explosive, it's sharp, rather. From light proddings to thrusts that create cavities in the mind. Neurosis flows through the nearby conductors. It changes the atmosphere of one's surroundings. Once hysteria is poured on others, it gives a false impression that it will make things better. However, it only causes one's own mind to smolder and invoke impatience, all the while burning others more severely. This property must be understood, an endless release of irritation and anger, megalomania and victim mentality. It actively moves around, gnawing at those nearby and steering them, and it moves fast. 500 corpses are coming at us. They're mere remains of the deceased. Electric stimuli injected into the brains by the human Thunderbolt command them to move them in a purely mechanical sense. The speed of light, the human Thunderbolt drifts between those 500 people at the greatest possible velocity. They're in essence biological machines that feel no pain or fear. They can't be considered subordinate entities of the Distortion either. We have to capture the moment when it jumps from a scorched body to another. The easiest method would be to let out a pale blue breath, the smoke of death and cessation. But this should be the absolute last resort, a violet breath for a violet being. It's standard methodology for me. How much can I bind? How much with the heavy guilt given to me? The violet memory that strangles my heart and drags my mind to the bottom. This memory must be dredged up. I led my co-workers to death that day. The human being named Moses participated in the smoke war as captain of Ujat. Completing the mission was all I had to do. There was no room for interpretation of mercy in the process. To obey Diaz's orders, to obey for her dream. I've stained my hands with so much blood in this life, even the blood of those whom I worked with. What I am bearing are the burdens of others, not mine. This smoking pipe isn't mine, it belongs to them. I hold the pipe and draw in smoke. I close my eyes as I draw in smoke. I have to close my eyes. They appear. I have to inhale their memories in agony. I need to find a violet memory among the faint yet a tenth mass. Memories akin to dark thorns, the eyes and gestures that grudge me, my sense of guilt. My guilt manifests as neurosis. I dislike noise. I dislike talkative people. The sound reminds me of the voices that resent me. The sound reminds me of the battery of the war, and it makes my mind bleed. The small grievances and scornful remarks, exchange of words full of ire, the barbed words I carelessly spouted. The barbed words I've carelessly spouted. The days in my life when I pushed someone and drove someone to tears. Had it been kinder, had it been more understanding. I didn't look after my subordinates. My eyes were fixed on Diaz. Everything that happened in the process were trivial matters to me. In the city where there is no good or evil, I made its distinction. What Diaz wishes for and which does not. That was the only criterion which severs the good from the bad. What made me so desperate? I can hear the cries and screams of my subordinates. I ignored them and went on my way. I shouldn't have turned around that time. Once I looked back, the path of the blood I'd been taking was so candidly visible. I couldn't help but cry. Why did I change my mind at the last moment? Why did I gain a sense of altruism for my colleagues bloom so suddenly? Why did the sense of altruism bloom for my colleagues so suddenly? I want to give salvation to them. To those who drift in my head. Each time I resolve a case of the distortion, their screams go silent one by one. But the quiet doesn't last long. Why did I abandon them? Why did I give them that heartless order, lacking even a speck of what could be thought of as a heart, and then come trying to save them? Why did I push them into the maw of hell? I have been resolving distortions because I couldn't bear to hear those voices blaming me. This is like a narcotic that I cannot quit. As soon as I stop taking the drug that is resolving distortions, the pain begins to constrict around my head again. This is not voluntary service or charity work. It's only a drug I take to ease my guilt. And yet I have the audacity to call myself detective and ask for payment. The requesting client I decline. All of this becomes a cumbersome and hurtful chain that stifles my heart once again. This is the chain I wanted to find. I tightened the grip around my mind. The chain that can be brought out if I choke my heart until blood and pus are utterly wrung out of it. This heavy contrition of mine. The grudges of 2,142 people I brought to death. However fast and sharp the neuroses of the human thunderbolt may be, it won't be greater than the weight and anguish. It won't be greater than the weight and anguish of the chain that I feel deep in my heart. I face the reality that everything I believed to be right was simply a childish attempt of self-satisfaction to cut out my neurosis. Humiliation and self-loathing, vexation and anger. I squeeze out all of it. I exhaled a violent breath. The smoking pipe turned into a hair-thin and pointed needle. A strand of thread which is held on the eye of the needle links to my chest, as though the thread were reeled from my heart. This is not just a thread, it's a chain, a shackle. We have 30 seconds. Ezra and Vespa are straining every nerve to hold back the horde of burnt corpses. An abundance of bits and pieces of charged bodies are at my feet. One of those bits crawled towards me with the last traces of electrical stimuli remaining in it. I stabbed the heavy and sharp needle into the arm of the crawling corpse. In an instant, my violent neurosis flowed through all the corpses at the speed of light. Every corpse stopped dead at once. The chain moved from body to body and tied them together. The longer the thread becomes, the more my heart bleeds. The sensation of barbed wire squeezing and crushing my brain. I have to withstand it. Not even a second has passed. So much physical and mental pain is being inflicted on my body that could end my life. The powerful buzzing of a bee. The yellow harpoon soared through the air and pierced the human thunderbolt's chest as it paused between corpses. It is done, Dr. Moses. The corpse went limp and collapsed to the ground.
Detective, are you okay?
Ezra asked. Having suffered many injuries herself, I nodded in response. The work is not done yet. The elongated chains of the mind now have to be retracted to where they came. Brooding over the memories in agony, I slowly pulled the chains back into my heart. Ezra is looking at me with worrisome eyes, but it can't be helped. No one can help me with this. I have to do this on my own. This is a lonely, heart-wrenching task. Just as I pulled the final link of the chain into my chest, I fell unconscious. What? Have you come to your senses yet? A low, grumpy voice woke me up. I he didn't die. Did you retrieve the distortion?
Yes, Detective, we put it in the van.
I see. Thanks for the hard work, both of you. Thanks for the hard work, both of you. Dr. Moses, we've encountered a problem. What is it? What is it?
Well, the car stopped working. It might be because of the electricity.
Ezra said in a worrisome tone. We can contact Han and June and call Ujet over. They'll repair the vehicle for us. My head still feels hazy from using the violet thread and needle. I'm honestly unsure of where I am and what time it is. Still lying on the ground, I picked up the smoking pipe and drew in a breath.
Detective, it's nighttime.
What hour is it now? Oh no, sweeper time, eh?
It's 3:26 a.m.
And our location?
Somewhere in the back streets, I think.
It's sweeper time. I'm in. I placed a hand on my head and puffed out smoke. The night in the back streets. The night in the back streets. It's the time of the sweepers. Yep, hey, called it. Sweepers are, there's something alright. Hopefully it ain't too bad. Chapter 34, The Night in the Back Streets. The Distortion detective. And no one will open the door for us. The sweepers come. The sweepers come in 3 waves. 3 waves are all we have to endure. Ezra, Vespa. Think you can make it through?
I actually used up all my strength fighting the human thunderbolt just before.
Ezra looked at me with an awkward smile. I reluctantly turned my gaze to Vespa. Dr. Moses, you're currently incapable of combat, and it seems Miss Ezra can barely protect herself. So, the conclusion? Impossible. We'd be able to survive 2 waves, I suppose. Yuri's workshop would have been a perfect hiding spot. But she's not up when we need it. I put my smoking pipe in my mouth. Gross noises can be heard from a distance. The sound of the cleaners of the streets. Fierce fights and contemptible murders are a common occurrence in the back streets. All of it wiped clean by morning. It's thanks to them. The sweepers cleaned the back streets, which means it's safe outside the back streets. I tapped my prosthetic arm. Oh, so we need to go see the city. Ah. Honey June. The prosthetic arm flashed for a second.
Working hard day and night, aren't you, Doctor?
Sorry to disturb your sound sleep.
Examining your location. You're in the back streets at this time of night.
I'll get to the point. Ujet, can you call them here?
If it's to stop the sweepers, I doubt there'll be any... If it's to stop the sweepers, I doubt they'll be of any help by the time they arrive.
Then let me ask something about this fallen nest. Is the border between the back streets and the nest area still up?
I'm sure a war veteran such as yourself knows better than I do.
What's the shortest route?
5 kilometers to the west as the crow flies.
And the call. The way out of this situation is simple. We've got to get into the nest. A ruined nest is still a nest. Sweepers only clean the back streets. We'll travel in a straight line. Work any walls in the way and cut down any nuisance. What about the car? Vespa asked in a low tone. We'll leave it here until night passes. It will be fine as long as we aren't in the van. Won't they treat distortions as humans? Don't ask me what they think. There is no other option. Even if we were to lose the 2 distortions we've retrieved, saving our lives comes first. We don't have time, Ezra. Ezra takes out her gauntlets and hammer, preparing to make way. When it comes to destruction for survival, she should be better suited for the job than Vespa.
Junior, give the detective a lift.
Ezra yelled. Vespa put me under the arm. As unpleasant it is, I suppose it's for the best. Here we go, Detective and Junior.
Here we go, Detective and Junior.
Vespa drew a sword with his other arm. To the west, a brick wall stands in the way. We'll breach this first. Ezra put her fist through the wall. It crumpled with ease, and there's a 2-story house standing right in front of it. Just as she tries to break this wall, Vespa stops her. Residential areas mustn't be destroyed during the night in the back streets. A taboo. I hadn't thought of this. I hadn't thought of the residential area. All of our problems could be solved if we can enter this house, but we need permission from the owner of the home first. It's not just a taboo in a nest. It's a taboo of the city. But that means violating it won't simply end with a taboo hunter or 2 chasing us. The night in the back street is a completely lawless hour. There is one exception among us, which remains safe. The residential area. inviolable territory. The head of the city doesn't allow this sanctuary to collapse, and no one will open the door for us.
Detective, what should we do?
We shan't dare to commit a taboo that not even fingers. We shan't dare to commit a taboo that not even the fingers violate. I can hear 3 to 4 people sobbing inside the house. A group of strangers breaking walls and standing before their home would surely be a terrifying sight for them. The sound grew closer, and sweepers showed up from the mist. The sweepers seep into the corners of the alleys like water flowing over a toy village. They go anywhere a path is open. They're persistent and resilient. They aren't afraid to die. They swarm their target and cling to them until they've been cleaned off the street. If a sweeper has died, they clean that corpse as well and continue on. Their orange hooks inject whoever they stab with a strange fuel. That mysterious fuel liquefies the victim. The melted remains are then recycled into fuel. Pumps of liquid. That's what the sweepers are. Who knows what goes on in their minds? It's frankly strange that the head considers those beings to be humans. I'm not sure if they're even capable of thinking normally.
Detective, I'll get ready for battle.
Put me down, please. Put me down, please. Vespa set me on the ground. I bit my smoking pipe. The yard of a residence. Sweeper squeezed through the destroyed wall. While this wasn't our intention, we've put ourselves in an advantageous spot for fending off multiple foes. Vespa cut down the sweepers creeping on us one by one. Ezra uses her fist and hammer. Her accelerated fist strikes a sweeper in the head. One liquid spouts from the smashed noggin. The same liquid spills from the torso of a sweeper cut in half by Vespa. And the liquid is absorbed into the bodies of the sweepers that follow, simply by stepping on the pool of liquid. 2, 5, 10, 23. Vespa's blade is losing its edge, and Ezra's fists are getting slower. The sweepers must be sliced into 2 or blown up in a single hit. They'll recover from wounds left by dull swords and lethargic fists by absorbing liquid from the carcasses of their fallen brethren. I can only trust those 2 to handle this. The first wave has died down. The time is 3:40. And the second wave will strike in about 10 minutes. We shouldn't stay here. We need to continue on the west, however. We couldn't even make 100 meters. I know this won't work, but I have to give it a shot anyway. I knocked on the door of a residence. My name is Moses, and I'm a grade 5 fixer from 7 Association. Could you please open this door? We just need a place to rest for a short while. There were 3 of us, including myself. Ta-da-da. The sound of a person weeping came from inside.
We'll just take shelter until morning. We can pay you too.
Ezra yelled urgently.
We want to live. Please leave us alone. Detective, I guess it's not gonna work.
Ezra said in a discouraged tone. You're too frightened to be reasoned with. Thus, we have no choice but to start running again. What will you do? What will you do now? What will you do now? We have to move to the west. Vespa picked me up again and ran westward, with Ezra following right behind. Let's jump over or go around the obstacles we encounter from now on. We can't afford to check if every wall in front of us is part of the residential area in this thick mist. This is going to take more time. Vespa and Ezra may be fast, but traveling 5 kilometers in 10 minutes will be a difficult task in their current state. We crossed walls and ran through narrow passages in the back streets. This Vespa kid is insanely quick, I must say. He spurts like a beast while searching for open paths. Ezra isn't falling behind either. 3:47, 3 minutes remain. Or not, time's up. Ezra, Vespa. Sweepers come in swarms from both ends of the long alleyway. I tap the arm. Honey June.
Yes, Doctor.
Does this arm have any combat functionalities?
No.
Then what was your boastful statement of this arm being one of a kind and expensive about?
Because there really is no other prosthetic arm like it. It's equipped with a technology that allows us to locate you wherever you are, not to mention its durability.
I hung up. Swarms of sweepers throng Ezra and Vespa. The 2 are slowly being pushed back. It's like stopping a leaking dam with just a palm. The water is bound to spill sooner or later. They face the sweepers right after dealing with a human Thunderbolt's army of corpses. Talk about a streak of misfortune.
Detective, I'll try to keep them at bay. I won't let any of them reach you.
Right now, I don't have the strength to take on a single sweeper. Ezra and Vespa will survive somehow. I'm completely dead weight this time. I've placed my smoking pipe in my mouth. Behind me is the door of a building in the residential area of the back street. If we broke this door and went inside, we might be able to survive the night. However, breaking a taboo of the city is on a completely different level to breaking a taboo of the nest. The most one can do is delay their inevitable death. Unparalleled force will pursue us. Death comes unto one someday. Perhaps the reason I live is to settle what I started until that moment comes. That's what makes me want to stay alive and let out the red breast. Dr. Moses, don't get any ideas. A yellow harpoon knocked the smoking pipe out of my hand. I told you I could stop the first 2 waves. Vespa frowned at me, his body covered in injuries. I picked up my pipe and knocked on the door behind me. This is the most you can do, while the 2 active human shields. I'm Moses, a grade 5 fixer from the 7... I'm Moses, a grade 5 fixer from 7 Association. If you let us take shelter here for a short while, we will give you a generous compensation. They respond again. That either means no one is in the house or they're rejecting us. The old steel door opened with a metallic creak. Ezra, Vespa, get in here right now. I shouted at the 2.
Okay, detective.
Ezra and Vespa slowly retreated to the door as they took down the sweepers in front of them. After they entered through the steel door, I quickly shut it. We're safe now, what a relief. Thank you for your kindness. Moses.
Moses from the 7 Association, was it? I'd like to make a deal.
A golden insignia. This is a symbol that distinguishes the fingers. These dark red coats, they're the sum. I turned to Vespa immediately, and I shook my head. Whatever story that kid has, this is most definitely not the time. Around 20 people in red coats are looking at us.
Let me introduce myself. I am Isabella. I'm Isabel, the keeper of the sum.
She ground her cigar into an ashtray and extended her arm for a handshake. I am a grade 5 fixer. I have to submit to the authority of a capo. I lowered my head and grasped her hand without making eye contact.
Strange things have been occurring in this nest, if you can tell. We couldn't acquire any proper info because of all this fog. Yet now I meet a fixer from the 7 Association. I'm such a lucky gal.
Isabel handed me a glass of liquor. I poured the drink down my throat. I've been parched for a while.
What are the grades of your friends next to you?
This child here is Ezra, a grade 3 fixer from the 7 Association, and I'd rather not disclose Vespa's real name and grade. Introducing him as a grade 3 like Ezra should be appropriate. Grade 1 fixer, Vespa, no affiliation. Vespa uttered, running his hand through his blood-soaked hair. I placed a hand on my forehead. Grade 1 fixer is in the same class as a capo.
The grade 1 fixer. You want to be lying by any chance?
Vespa put his hand through the inside pocket of his coat. The 20-some goons immediately pointed their matchlock rifles at us in unison. Isabel made a gesture to halt them. Then, Vespa took out his fixer license and tossed it in front of her. It's without a doubt a legitimate fixer license issued by the Hana Association.
It's a pleasure to greet such a valuable guest. Please feel free to rest up here for a while. Let's talk more when the sun comes up.
As soon as she stopped speaking, the goons withdrew their guns. They're quick to change their attitude when one discloses their grade. That's what the sum is, a gang of mobsters obsessed with class and authority. Provide them with
blankets and pillows. And show them the room where they will rest.
A couple of syndicate's members guided us. This is a small house with a floor space of 70 square meters. There's no way the sum would use this kind of residence at the base of operation. The sum soldato stopped at the door and turned around to give Vespa a courteous nod. That's a gesture of asking permission from a superior to speak. Vespa returned a nod apathetically.
The room is a bit messy right now, so we'll clean it up for you.
The syndicate members opened the door. Ezra frowned when she saw what was in the room. 3 bodies of varying size were on the floor. They didn't even fire the guns. They merely used the butt stocks of They merely used the bloodstock to snuff them out. They occupied a back streets residence before the night came. The Sum can get away with it. Vespa put his hand on the handle of his sword. I glared at Vespa, shaking my head. Vespa glared back at me with sharp eyes, and then he took his hand off the blade. Okay, at least he listened. Better than not this time around, eh? There we go. Chapter 35. This territory. The thought I had this day became one of my few wishes. The respite of the room didn't quite feel like a true respite. Waking up in a room that feels like an average living space is almost reminiscent of my ordinary life. Though the smell of blood permeating about reminds me of where I am now. Ezra still sound asleep next to me, snoring away. On the other hand, Vespa was sitting on the floor and gazing at the door, clutching his blade in his arms. I'm not sure if he slept at all. Have you gotten any sleep? I had enough rest that you won't have to worry about my condition. That's good to hear. Knock knock. Someone thumped on the door. Sana suggested there was a soldado. Class below the capo. Speak. Speak. This is Rami.
This is Rami. How about... well, this is Rami, a Sum Soldato. I'm here to check if you've woken up.
I turned to Vespa. A grade 5 fixer such as myself is not allowed to mention a capo's name. If Capo Isabel asking to see us, Vespa spoke on my behalf.
Yes, she wishes to talk with you over a simple breakfast.
We'll be there soon. It's fortunate to have Vespa with me. You'll make our negotiation with the Sum smoother. I shook Ezra to wake her up.
Detective, I can go for another helping.
What a silly thing to say in one's sleep. When I went out to the living room, plates of bacon and eggs sunny side up were set on a round table for 4. And the Sum capo, Isabel, sits at it.
Please take a seat, Vespa and company.
Isabel said to him, paying no attention to Ezra or I. We sat as we were told.
Vespa and the Grade 1 fixer and a couple of 7 association fixers. What is your business here? Could you be participating in the struggle to take over Elcorp's nest like many others?
Vespa grimaced as he speared a strip of bacon with a fork, seemingly annoyed. Then he looked right at Isabel. I work for Dr. Moses, the person here next to me. I devolve all of my authority and power to Dr. Moses as of this moment. He isn't even trying to hide his irritation.
As you wish. I must say, it's interesting that you know about the transfer of authority. The Sum uses it internally. Grade 1 fixers are truly in another league.
Isabel gave her and threat she lit a cigar in her mouth.
Or perhaps you're an affiliate of the Sum.
Puffing out cigar smoke towards Vespa, Isabel narrowed her eyes. He glared at her, not budging an inch. Let's not get off topic. Let's not get off topic. I would like it if we could speak on equal terms. Ezra, clean the table. William, I don't think we have the time for a full meal.
Okay.
Ezra answered, hurriedly shoving bacon in their mouths, while Ezra and the Sum members were clearing dishes from the table. I placed my smoking pipe between my lips. It's time to negotiate the deal. I'm bargaining with the Sum. One of the fingers. No amount of ridiculousness should be surprising coming from them.
Well then, Miss Moses, Grade 5 fixer of 7 Association. Let's us speak on equal terms.
Gladly. The Sum has the strongest organizational power among the fingers. It controls a legion of subsidiary syndicates, and the members of the Sum itself are not rallied for trivial matters. However, soldatos and even a capo being at the site must mean that they're unable to rely on their subsidiaries. I imagine it has something to do with the fog covering this nest. The syndicate's organizational capability wouldn't be as effective in the mist that clouds one's cognition. They're likely desperate in their own rights in their attempt to make use of us.
I'm about to offer a deal. I hope you are prepared.
That's right. It's hard to refuse a deal offered by the Sum. On equal standing, I could politely decline it given enough justification. They provided us with shelter to survive the sweepers. We're indebted to them. I don't see any justification that could lift this debt. Let's hear the details of your offer. I bit the pipe and let out a breath.
Miss Moses, first, I want you to give me an introduction of yourself and your colleagues. Although it won't change the outline of the offer, I might be able to take it into consideration.
Isabel filled a glass in front of her with liquor. I'm working as a distortion detective, or so I call it. These two fellows are my assistants who helped me with the job. Isabel's brows twitched. Perhaps the word distortion caught her attention. That's got to be their case. Several sightings of the distortion are apparently being reported in Elcorp's Nest. There's no reason for me to hide my profession. Rather, they'll be motivated to hand over information about the cases of distortion that have emerged here. If this prediction misses the mark, though, that would mean they're only interested in using us as another pawn for their strife.
Oh, you're a detective. It's impressive that you've agreed to reintegrate one fixer as your assistant. I'd contact the headquarters and check the facts right away if I could. But I cannot reach the outside at the moment, so I will have to trust your words on this.
Isabel guzzled down her drink. It wasn't the mention of distortion that she reacted to, unlike my expectation.
I won't pry into it further. There will be bloodshed in Elcorp's Nest in the near future. We have the Sum and our subsidiary syndicates are preparing for this fight.
Are you asking the office of the distortion detective to join your forces as part of the deal?
Are you asking the office of the distortion detective to join our...
No. Are you asking the office of the distortion detective to join your forces as part of the deal?
You're looking for soldiers to fight alongside us in our all-out war? No. The workshops in this nest, which were supposed to provide the Sum with musket ammunition, have disappeared.
There was a spark in Ezra's eyes. It's only natural that bringing up workshop would draw her interest. The workshops that supplies the goods to the Sum must be especially intriguing, since it's difficult to normally get in touch with them.
And you want us to...
And you want us to find their whereabouts? I held my pipe between my lips. Isabel nodded. If this is your offer, what do you promise to give us in return?
Is there anything you want? Is there anything you want?
I need information. Information regarding the distortions. The Sum will serve as a reliable network. We need information on the distortion phenomenon occurring in this nest, and we need lots of it.
You want us to regularly update you on the news concerning them, is that correct?
Isabel scanned me, the spy and Ezra with her eyes. Sadly, we're isolated at the moment. It's not an easy job to get our comms to work or specify our location in this fog.
No, wait.
Wrong one.
Sadly, we're isolated at the moment. It's not an easy job to get our comms to work or specify our location in this fog.
That means you have no intel you could give us at the moment?
For now, no. However, I'll ask the other capos when I contact the headquarters later. I can collect the intel and head it over to you then. How did that sound?
I blew at smoke. Our dialogue was resolved smoothly thanks to Vespa's presence, and she didn't ask too much of us for saving our lives. Isabel offered her hand to shake on it. Tell me more about the case of lost ammunition and the location of the workshop. I shook her hand. The street is brighter than it was at night, although the scenery is still rather dim and blurry thanks to the fog. We're heading in the general direction of the workshop Isabel told us about. Ezra walks with a spring into her step, possibly because she's elated for the chance to see a workshop partnered with the Sum. Vespa follows us, wearing a frown. That kid certainly seems to have a deeply ill-fated relationship with the Sum, and for reasons I'm not yet aware of. Ezra, do you know much about the workshop the Sum gets service from?
Yep, of course.
Ezra's expression was that of someone begging to be asked more questions. It's true that I know little about the Sum beyond common knowledge. There has been a particular lack of friction with the Syndicate while going about this job in general. So, Ezra, could you brief us on what you know?
As you're already aware, the Sum uses muskets.
Right.
And some uses a huge variety of bullets. They pick the right one for the situation every time.
I'm guessing those bullets are quite pricey.
Oh, it's no joke. It's like they throw money at the workshop when a purge happens. Oh no. Oh, it's no joke. It's no joke. It's like they throw money at the workshop when... Oh, it's no joke. It's like they throw money at the workshop when a purge happens.
Vespa's brows furrowed upon hearing the word purge. He must have a troubled past concerning the Sum's purge.
They don't waste their time on trivial stuff, though. In fact, the Sum's firearms are terrific weapons even without the bullets. Their buttstock performs better than your average blunt instruments. It's made of the hardest wood available in the city.
Ezra tirelessly goes on with their passionate speech.
It might look simple at a glance, but it contains the technologies of several workshops. Acceleration and mass manipulation are a given. They can purge anybody they want for a reason. The buttstock is designed to be a good tool for bashing anyone's jaw, too.
It's so entertaining. Vespa murmured. It would seem all of this talk of the Sum provoked him.
Huh? Well, yeah, talking about workshops is always fun.
Have you been struck by the buttstock yourself? Vespa gave Ezra a vicious glare. His eyes are much like those I saw plenty of times throughout my life. Ezra's expression changed in the blink of an eye. The same expression she wore during the war.
What are those eyes? What are those eyes?
Miss Ezra, I want you to refrain from talking about such things while I am around, lest I cut your tongue off. Vespa grabbed the hilt of the sword at his side.
Don't you give that kind of look in front of the detective. Don't you give that kind of look in front of the detective.
Ezra spoke in a glacial voice. I placed a hand on my forehead. These kids are comparable to ticking time bombs.
The detective and I have gone through a war. It was a hellish time. Worse than anything you've ever experienced.
A flash of yellow light danced in the air. What do you know about me? What do you know about me? Vespa's sword was drawn before I noticed.
I don't give a darn about that. Just don't evoke the memories of war for the detective. For us, it's those eyes.
Ezra doesn't move a muscle. How can you talk about killing people so gleefully when you've suffered a war? How can you talk about killing people so gleefully when you've suffered a war? I bit my smoking pipe.
This is the only way I know how to cope. Take joy and don't be serious.
Ezra's blonde hair gradually turns white. She gripped Vespa's neck. She gripped Vespa's neck with her hand. At a speed my eyes couldn't follow. Vespa grasped her neck in retaliation. Both of them are nothing short of killing machines. Ezra, stop. She put her arm down at my word. Her eyes are still cold.
I apologize. I was careless.
I puffed out a curl of smoke. Vespa released his grip on Ezra's neck. Vespa, we're in the process of overcoming our past events in our own ways. I'm sure you are overcoming something of your own as well. We're co-workers who have to band together whether you like it or not. So I want all of us to be more considerate of each other, understood?
Got it.
Ezra returned to her usual self and gave a cheerful reply.
Sorry, Junior. My bad.
You're insane. Vespa closed his eyes and sheathed his blade. Perhaps Vespa is right. Maybe we have gone insane from what we went through during that time. We react sensitively to small things. We're prone to labor under delusions, and completely nonchalant towards cruelty. I committed the sin, and I must be punished for it, as did Ezra. As did Ezra, as did the city. But I don't want Vespa to set foot in this territory. He has a good heart. He has a sense of justice in his mind. The thought I had this day became one of my few wishes. I shook off the stray thoughts shortly after. We walked in the mist for a while without speaking. And we then arrived at the site where the workshop in question should be. What a mess. A scene littered with corpses came into our sight. It's hard to tell if they're fixers or syndicate members. I placed my smoking pipe in my mouth. Among them, dark blue coat and yellow garment attracted my eyes. It's the way. The association that specializes in public security and protection. All unidentified bodies, Accompanied by those of Sway Fixers, I should investigate the scene further. My lips firmly held the pipe. Six more! It just takes an hour. Oh, it takes an hour. Nope. I'm gonna get probably after this chapter, I'm probably gonna have to go to the. You're probably gonna have to take a slight momentary break and go to the washroom. Yep. Just gonna say it in advance here. Gonna take like probably 3 minutes or whatever. Chapter 36, the bullet. It rotates, digging into Ezra's chest ever so slowly. It rotates, digging into Ezra's chest ever so slowly. There are bullet holes in some of the corpses. These bodies are in the attire of the Way Association, and I suspect that they belong to a fairly eminent section. I searched the body of one Way Association fixer, looking for something a fixer would carry. I found a fixer license in their inside pocket. It says they're from Section 3 of the Southern Branch of the Zwei Association. Just as I predicted, this rectangular ID card, proving one's status as a fixer, is what tells them apart from syndicate members. If someone fixes and solves problems for a price without a fixer license, you have yourself a syndicate. This is a line between us and them. I inspect the bodies next. A bullet to the chest punctured their hearts and went straight out the back, and all of their faces were contorted, tears streaming. Ezra, are the sums bullets powerful enough to penetrate the coat of that? Ezra, are the sums bullets powerful enough to penetrate the coat that the Section 3 of this way have with such ease?
It's possible in theory, but this case is kinda iffy. Bullets used by the highest of higher ups are super expensive and powerful, so they could make a hole in those coats. The thing is,
it's unlikely for such superior personnel to be in a place like this. I gave a light chomp to my smoking pipe. Could this workshop be a place where the bullets for the top brass are manufactured?
well, all the workshop owner said the ammunition of the Sum is produced at the Sum HQ. It kept under strict management when I asked them.
Ezra says with a puzzled look. I searched the coat some more. I see. The scratches on this coat, and the bullets scattered on the floor. I picked up one of them. The scratches on this coat, and the bullets scattered on the... The scratches on the coat, and the bullets scattered on the floor. I picked up one of them. Is this bullet the kind used by the Sum then?
It is.
Well, it is. That's what gave the answer instead. I ruminated my pipe. A battle broke out between the Zay Association and someone who took the Sums the bullets. However, those bullets were not responsible for the deaths of the 7 fixers from the Way, Section 3.
Detective, the other corpses don't look like fixers. Maybe they were part of a Sum subsidiary syndicate guarding this workshop.
I walked toward Ezra and glanced at the bodies. Their limbs were lopped off by large weapons. This is the Way Association's work. Their enormous swords have caused this damage. This Way's Section 3 and a Sum. This Way's Section 3 and a Sum affiliate syndicate had a fight. This Way came out on top.
But...
Right, there was someone else. I let some smoke seep out of my lungs.
Looks like we have some new faces here. Judging by your appearance, are you fixing on the request?
A voice came from the mist. It's a voice of a young male. Different voice in next time. Okay. He must be the one who killed the fixers from the Zaway. A man with ammunition capable of penetrating... the coat worn by Section 3 of the Zaway is a considerable threat, even for Ezra and Vespa. We have to react immediately. He can see us through the mist. He has us at advantage in terms of sight. Ezra. She nodded and put on the gauntlet of the Wind Valley workshop.
Gilfist.
As she lunged her fist forward, a strongest wing cleared the mist in its way. Vespa threw his yellow harpoon without delay. It took little time for the mist to obscure our sight again. It's a hit. We walked in the direction of the moan.
Excuse me, isn't this rather harsh? You can't just pin a metal stick into a stranger's side without asking.
I should have let my guard down. He might not be alone. I exhaled a red breath. The smoky pipe morphed into a sword. Are you the one who killed the fixers from this way association?
I did. I had no ill feeling towards them, but they were getting in my way.
The way of you taking the bullets for yourself?
Exactly. I'm the marksman of the mist. More ammo, the better.
I hear that voice right in front of me. I gave Vespa a look. One of us has to turn to his flank. Ezra, be on your guard. Vespa, disarm him, but don't hurt him too badly. Vespa jumped sideways and disappeared into the mist at once. Ezra and I kept advancing forward.
Oh, are you also here for these pieces of metal? Ezra! Ezra!
Oh, Ezra! She extends her fist once more, as the mist cleared away. A yellow trace hit the floor. Vespa seems to be going for the legs. And something was cut by his blade. It's a decoy.
It's a decoy.
He spoke in a low voice.
I knew it, so you were.
An old radio in front of us.
I bring enlightenment to people. You're probably thinking that you're wandering in the mist, like most others. What is truly lost, though, is the mind.
A voice came from a distance. Ezra shoved me aside forcefully. Blam! Ezra's movement stopped right as she pushed me. It's not that she got knocked unconscious or anything. She ceased motion in a literal sense.
I'm the marksman of the mist. Hold still here, please.
The voice is coming from multiple directions. He probably has more loudspeaker devices like the radio placed here and there. We can't specify his location. I at least try to estimate his position from the trace of his bullet. But a view is too badly obscured for even that. He has a complete advantage over us.
I don't see enough discussion going on in this day and age. The epoch lacks deep conversation. Nobody likes that kind of stuff, because they've all lost their ways.
And you can see us through the fog. I shouted in no specific direction.
Yep, I can see you clear as day. This mist is merciful to those who haven't lost their way.
Way.
He
says, he's the type that talks a load of nonsense philosophy. Hear the fawning from Ezra's eyes, who is otherwise perfectly motionless. On closer inspection, I see a long bullet spinning in front of Ezra's heart. It rotates, digging into Ezra's chest ever so slowly.
I guess it's too much for the big yellow-haired fellow to endure. I'm sure it's tough for anyone to endure.
We fixers were investigating this place because we were requested to bring back bullets that belonged to our client, that's all.
What kind of windmill tilting to fetch bullets involve harpooning people and trying to chop off their ankles? What happened to the good old way of the fixer? Aren't you people supposed to recite some fancy creed, a la chivalry or bushido?
Will you let us go unharmed if we forfeit our search?
Nada.
What do you want?
First off, tell your other pal on the prowl for me to cut it out. He's so terrifying, I can't move a muscle.
Vespa, stop! I shouted out to the air. I presume he's speedily scouring every corner of the area right now. What do you want next?
I won't make it long. You would accept his bullet instead. I'll put a break on the ones that's digging into the heart of the yellow-haired lass if you do.
I'll accept it. Are you going? Are you going to? Nah. Yeah. Are you going to be okay with that? Vespa appeared next to me and asked. I nodded in response.
An outstanding attitude. You've managed to withstand my bullet so far.
Tears are still flowing down Ezra's face. The Section 3 fixers died shedding tears. These signs make it evident that the attack is of a psychological nature, whether it's a distortion or a psychomet user. Meaning, this won't be a test of physical endurance. It's going to be a matter of willpower.
You look like a smart cookie. But you know that intelligence and strength of will are two different things, right?
His words echo from all over the place. The space. I hear the sound of a bullet being loaded into a gun. I can hear whistles as well. I gave Vespa a look. This is the one and only chance for us to trace a bullet back to its source. I trust Vespa to know the meaning of my sign.
Good, stay right there.
Blam. I was surrounded by darkness. Why is it dark? It's because my eyes are closed. I opened my eyes. In front of me are a group of people, donning dark coats and slaying others with their blades. Their shoes clack on the floor in synchronized motion as they march on, cutting down whatever stands in their way. People resist in vain with edged objects before their assailants. Then their tools of self-defense are cut through. Curved scimitars mow down victims like scythes, reaping crops. I look down at my body. I'm wearing the same black long coat as they are, except mine has a special accoutrement added to it. I looked around. A massive and antique gallery. The marble floor drenched in blood makes a vivid contrast with it. A one-sided massacre. I moved my hand to place it on my forehead. However, it touched a cold mask instead. I'm wearing a mask. Upon being touched, it shows the personal information of the people in long coats, such as their names and age. I rub the mask again to turn off the display. Someone approaches me. A person in a dark long coat wearing a golden mask with the symbol of an eye came to me and spoke. Captain, we've secured Eunice's family. How many are they? 4, ma'am. There could be children among them. My moral judgment holds no meaning. However, I must act according to Deus's will. There is no need to bother informing myself of any unnecessary details. I didn't ask further about the family members. The fault is that they were an obstacle to the path Deus pursued. That is enough reason to slaughter them. I am Moses. I am the captain of the Ujat. Yep, I'm gonna be right back. I need to use the bathroom. I'll be right back. There we go. It feels a lot better. Bit of water as per usual. And here we go. Chapter 37, Noise. And, don't know how to pronounce that. I'm not even gonna try.
Hi, Moses. Good job as always.
Yes, are you satisfied with the outcome?
All thanks to you, Moses.
About this last mission I handled, they were actual syndicate members, right?
Is it really necessary for you to know that? Is it really necessary for you to know that much detail?
Frigid eyes. I suppose not.
Right. I like your eyes so much, dear.
Followed by an innocent, cheery smile.
You've done a good job today. So let's go out and treat ourselves for some nummy food.
Deus raised me and gave me a chance at life. I was an abandoned child. Deus was the one who saved me from desolation. She looked after me and educated me. Diaz told me to think of her as my older sister. I wish to make her dream come true. Who is this child, almost? Huh? Who is this? Who is this child, almost? She will be the 2142nd agent of Ujat. You brought a useless piece of meat. It was my Lady Diaz's recommendation. I suppose the child was pushed here. Fine, I'll teach her. Are you going to train her yourself, Captain? If it's what Diaz wants. I'm not sure what Diaz's intentions behind getting a clumsy kid involved in her work here. I don't question her, however, Diaz is my light.
Hey.
Dull tone, an attitude that utterly lacks politeness. What is it, Ezra?
Isn't killing our enemies all we have to do?
Do you have questions about this job?
I heard that work here is all about beating foes to a pulp.
You also want to read books and study.
I don't need stuff like that.
Having a towering physique for her age, the kid said she's a good fighter if nothing else. The augmentation procedures she received are apparently expensive and prestigious. What is your weapon of choice?
I'm good with any.
How arrogant. You have that much confidence in your own body, huh?
I bet I'm stronger than a shorty like you at least.
I probably smacked her in the face. There are virtues that people who shed blood in this business must respect. Ezra swung a fist at me right away. The powerful haymaker audibly ripped through the air, however, it won't reach me. I kicked her calf in response. She went down on one knee. A plethora of procedures are available out there, such as augmenting tattoos, nanotech, muscle-enhancing drugs, and prosthetics. I don't know what kind of extraordinary augmentations you have. Ezra stood up and performed a roundhouse kick aiming for my head. I effortlessly dodged her attack and nailed a fist in her chest. The kid winced. But I struck your weak point using less than half of the energy you've spent. Making sound judgment depending on the situation, whether you're a fixer or a syndicate crook. Money won't solve all your problems. I pointed to my head. The head is your most valuable asset. When you think things through, you'll find opportunities to grasp. Even in the most perilous of situations. Ezra jumped at me. I tripped her up, and she fell on the floor with a loud noise. I had to remain calm. The head must stay cool at all times. Unable to contain a rage, the kid began throwing punches at random left and right. Each time I dodged, an unsuspecting table or wall ended up taking the blow. Besides, she swung her fist at me with all her might. The clenched fist fiercely draws near me, causing a shrieking wind I cannot get out of its way. I have no need to, rather, I am stronger than you. I stopped Ezra's fist with a single hand and gripped it. Crack. I could hear the bone in her right hand break. I'm teaching you what you need to know to become a proper member of Ujat. Do you understand? Still indignant, the kid was shedding tears. And next time, call me Captain. Several missions went on. The Ujat agents handled their task without any one of them falling behind. They do not question a single thing about their work. I remember the name of every single member of Ujat. To me, they're my new family. Their respect for me and the sense of fellowship may have played a part in their willingness to carry out preposterous and cruel jobs. Of course, money would be the most important motivation that allowed this office to operate in its unorthodox way, with the exception of me and Ezra.
Captain, are we fixers?
Ezra asked. It seems all this chatting gave her a sharp insight. We've all started out as fixers.
I looked it up and found out that Ujat is registered as an office, and I saw that you're listed as its leader instead of Lady Diaz.
She acts as a client, giving us requests. Massive office serving one person. A massive office serving one person. That is what Ujat is.
But in my opinion, what we do is...
Your opinion matters little on this topic. We would seem no different from a syndicate in the eyes of the unaware.
Then, what's the point of the line fixers are not meant to cross, Captain? We cross that boundary all the time. I heard that fixers are free to take any request. though it's mandatory to report the results to the HANA Association.
I nodded. HANA Association reviews the jobs the fixers handle. It considers promotion or demotion based on those evaluations. We are a grade 1 office.
If that's the case, why won't the HANA Association demote Ujat? Let alone expel it?
The boss DS possesses her unctuous way with words and her connections. Everything revolves around DS. Ezra's eyes were open, same as the doubt I feel. Ezra knows that something is off about her job.
A fixer isn't supposed to kill a civilian who is unwilling to fight.
DS doesn't care about such rules. She exploits and eliminates anyone in their way, civilian or not. I get my hands dirty for her sake. I believe in Dios's dreams. Dios' dream. For the sake of that dream, the unstable trip down memory lane accelerates in fragments. Noises and cries will fill the reminiscences. The sound that calls me. The voices that resent me. Moses, I brought new work for you. 2. What is it about? Time. Diaz, Rada, Whisper, a person, what is that? Wait. I'm not gonna do the voice here because I can't, but it's all like this. Moses, I brought new work for you. And a strawberry cake too. Oh, fine.
Moses, I brought new work for you, and a strawberry cake too.
Okay, what is it about? Okay, what is it about time? About time. She has brought the stranger with her. A person with gray hair and green eyes.
Hey, why don't we try something huge this time?
What is it now?
I bet it's another odd...
I bet it's another odd job. I bet it's another odd job. It's a war. What are you?
But this is necessary for me to become a... You're on my side. Isn't that right?
Yes, this must be done for you. The sake of all of us. For the sake of all of us. For you. And my mentor. The person next to Diaz. Says mysterious things. Even I can tell we're no fixers. Yeah, we're mass murderers. Did you
want to become a fixer?
I wanted to dream the same dream her... Oh, I wanted to dream the same dream her together. I wanted to take that path.
Your eyes are so precious to me. They always have been my most precious.
You think of me as tools, and nothing more. Captain, the divisionary tactic, the help of our corp, will be vital for the success of this operation. Noted, Hijun. I'll be spilling yet more blood. In the outpost amidst the war zone. We set off once again. Probably missing some words here and there, but I'm trying, man. All of this was an experiment. You wanted me to see all things. Ezra. And Hijun. I'll save you too. If it's the last thing I do. Captain. Moses. You know what, Moses? The head, to reach those heights. A pair of wings would be needed. I won't be your eyes. I opened them. The bullet fell from my forehead and hit the floor. Vespa, I quietly muttered. A yellow light flashed in the distance. Man, holy heck, that was kind of a hard read. Think what the heck, I'm trying to read it all. Well, we did what we could here. Chapter 38, The Marksman of the Mist. Even though he has no mouth, I can almost picture one jabbering away when I listen to his babble.
Not bad. You actually withstood the test of my bullet.
The marksman groaned as he spoke. Vespa subdued the marksman and made him kneel in front of me. The bullet aimed for Ezra stopped as well. He's lying next to me, unconscious. A steam-powered rifle. It's similar to Sycomet as Yuri had described. But this isn't one. This is a distortion, one that maintains reason. An uncommon type of distortion. Usually, distortions twist into a form suited for claiming and expressing their desires in one-dimensional ways. It's unlikely for a human side to remain. However, on rare occasions, distortions may retain their humanity and possess a capacity to plan a way to suit their desires. The sapience does not make them particularly more lethal or dangerous, but it does become a nuisance to deal with. They keep their desires hidden under layers of facade, similar to humans. Even so, it's still possible to figure out the cause of those distortions as their thoughts are warped and linear nonetheless. I believe there's a fine line between psychomet and distortions of this type. They're at the crossroads between making a step forward to manifesting psychomet and staying as a distortion. If I had to guess, I'd give it all my pipe. Or the bullet of the sum. The distortion who introduced himself as a marksman of the mist had a handle of lenses for a head. A combination of a large lens and smaller compound ones.
Somewhere in the mist. Somewhere in the mist. By the way, you're quite the impressive individual, aren't you? It's not often that someone survives one of my bullets.
This man needs bullets. It seems his gun manifested through the distortion imbues any ammunition loaded into it with its unique properties when they're fired.
You have what it takes to stay on the right path.
Letting him ramble on and on would be a huge waste of my time. I expired a white breath, and the white smoke covered his head of lenses.
What is the meaning of this? The smoke of yours tickles it quite a bit.
I placed a hand on my forehead. Mental disruption won't work on him. Is this ineffective against sentient distortions in general, or is he the odd one out?
What are you doing here anyway? You don't appear to be a generic henchman of the Somme, judging from your noble willpower.
Will you tell me where you stashed the bullets if I let talk go on?
I see you're under the impression that this conversation is a waste of time. Why do you think that? It's because you were ordered to retrieve the bullets, but hear me out. Chin-wagging with me will prove to be a most valuable expenditure of time. Oh, absolutely. But it might even be a chance to realize what you want out of life.
This is driving me insane. Even though he has no mouth, I can almost picture one jabbering away when I listen to his babble.
Alright, let's do it this way then. I'll teach you one of these two. The location of the bullets or the secret of this nest. What do you want to hear?
What he uttered was rather unexpected. He mentioned the secret of this nest. It wouldn't hurt to hear that. Whether or not it's true, there's a sizable possibility that it's not entirely baseless. On the other hand, the whereabouts of the bullets is factual information, and it's what I need at the moment. Location of the bullets.
Oh, you city folk, alas. You shall find the answer eventually. After circling round and round, the bullets are in the water tank of the building behind you.
There was genuine wistfulness in his voice. I don't mind it as much though. Even if I had to take a roundabout trip, I can start searching for the answer when I need to. Dr. Moses. What is it? Someone is approaching. Two shadowy figures approached from the mist. Vespa reached for her sword. I slapped Ezra's cheeks a few times to wake her up. Ezra, there's no time to be snoozing.
Detective?
Ezra threw her arms around me. The kid must have seen a past too tough to bear. Prepare for combat. The duo revealed themselves. One of them was a person slightly taller than me. Though he is by no means a tall person, he's wearing the coat of the white fixer. It's worn and wrinkled. The other was a dog made of steel. It's carrying a crude club on its back. That dog could very well be holding a human brain. Is that...
Is that the one who slaughtered our fixers?
spoke to us.
Who are you lot?
The short middle-aged man furrowed his brow. Apparently baffled by the inquiry, he then took a fixer license out of his coat pocket for us to see. The Way Association, Section 1.
Edgar, a detective from the Major Crimes Unit of Section 1 of the Way South.
The Major Crimes Unit 1 of the Way... The Major Crimes Unit of the Way is Section 1. Some high-profile individual we have here. I masticated my pipe.
I want you to hand over that monster and the thumbed ammunition while you're at it.
Edgar drew a cigarette from his pocket. Putting that
aside. Vespa Carabra the Taboo Hunter is here, huh? That's a rare sight for the southern parts.
Vespa is silently staring at Edgar. This boy in yellow has a reputation, I see. I feel an uncanny tension in the air.
Well, isn't the atmosphere rather awkward?
The marksman broke silence.
So, is that the culprit who killed our fixers?
Edgar tilted his chin at the marksman. I maintained silence.
I want you to stay out of this from now on.
He's using with poised.
What were you trying to do with those bullets anyway?
If I confess to his way fixer that we accepted the Finger's request, the outcome will be thorny to say the least.
We just wanted to borrow some of those amazing bullets that the sum makes.
Vespa hurriedly stepped up.
Really? So you were a group of scavengers looking for So you were a group of scavengers looking for some loot to snatch in this aftermath. Aftermath.
An electric sound rang.
Was that ring? You overheard their conversation?
Edgar puts his ear to the dog next to him. As a gulp, his expression turned to a minor scowl.
Is that so?
Edgar threw a cigarette butt into his portable ashtray.
Fixers bribed and doing dirty deeds for the thumb, eh? That changes the story.
Wait, I am Moses the Distortion detective, and I belong to the 7 Association. These are my assistants, Ezra and Vespa.
Forget that. Is it true that you're working for a sum?
It is, but our lives are on the line in that deal.
Yeah, the city never runs short on felonious scum. A fixer affiliated to an association taking work from a syndicate.
This is troublesome. The problem isn't that we're facing a fixer from the Section 1 of an association. The association he belongs to is the issue. Starting a feud with his wife fixer, who works for the safety of the city, is essentially opposing the few remaining upholders of justice in this civic jumble. Although it would take some time, the only option we have is to follow them to the station and give our testimony of the situation. Besides, the uses are back. I presume paperwork won't bother us for long.
I could cuff you and take you to HQ for formal procedures, but I'm a stubborn fool.
Darn it. I don't have a good feeling about this. Ezra looked at me with nervous eyes and shook her head vigorously. She's telling me that our opponent is strong.
Things come like you makes my blood boil. They say victims do anything for money these days, but partaking in the slaughter of innocent people led by a finger, that's where I draw the line.
Edgar shook his hand. Then his canine companion merged with him, transforming into a suit of metallic armor covering his body. It was as if a shepherd dog assumed an anthropomorphic form.
Ring, it's time to bring justice.
Vespa, a yellow flash clashed against the flickers of an indigo hue. The sharp blows make a sound that echoes through the street. Ezra, we'll escape. Pick the sod up and run. Ezra, we'll escape. Pick the sod up and run. Our best option is to lure him to where Isabel is.
Hey, Marksman of the Mist, was it?
Hey, Marksman of the Mist, was it? Think you can keep it in place?
I could halt that man, sure. But I could also just end up killing him. Or the bullet might not even work. Like how it didn't work on you. It's all in the mind.
I'm forced to make yet another choice. Wait, that's him. Oh, that's Honeydew now. Okay. Oh, name Vespa Crabro. Oh no, it is Vespa. Doesn't seem too happy though. Doesn't seem too happy here though. Male, former temple hunter, but expelled. Grid 1, Heck and Tall. Hobbies, vehicle maintenance, organizing assaults while brewing cinnamon tea. Vehicle maintenance, Specialties, driving, tracking. Vehicle maintenance might have been why he cut off the head of the Heck and whatever they're called. Birthday January 24th, say. Ooh, he likes food. Clothes, comfortable for agile activity, and cinnamon and cars. Yep, there it is, cars. He likes cacti and syndicates. The some in particular, Report DS. DS, female, 5'8", around 5'8", collecting vintage tableware, making punch cards to play with surprise music box, eloquence. Specialty eloquence, birthday June 1st, likes the sound of music boxes, the color of gold, and don't know. Dislikes dissonant notes, sound of antiquated machines, okay. Chapter 39, Edgar. Edgar's determined shout echoed through the basement. Wait, through the basement. Oh, we're putting another person in the atelier. Yeah, maybe. Ezra and I were still running. The thunderous roar of our pursuer won't get any quieter. Despite our best efforts to escape him, this struggle is filled with the sound of building walls on the collapse. This struggle is filled with the sound of building walls on the collapse, the sound of swords cutting through the air, and the screeches of metal shaking against one another. Edgar is chasing us, and Vespa's slowing him down.
Look, have you still not made up your mind? Just what is the hesitation for? You may be bold in the face of major occasions, but you're quite the reluctant one when it comes to the little things.
The marksman of the mist says to me, being carried on Ezra's shoulder, this is not a little thing. Edgar comes from the Way Association. Anyone with half a brain in this business knows that there are boundaries a fixer shouldn't cross. There would differentiate you from a syndicate crook. Violating those rules will result in demotion or worse, disqualification from work. However, if we murder the fixer from Section 1 of the Way Association while doing some bidding for the sum, disqualification would be the least of our concerns. We'd become the target of requests. No, I know better. That despite everything, this can be covered up as long as Diaz has our back. The shallow sense of justice left in me is repulsed by the thought. Though, that's not it either. I'm aware that I've come too far to speak of injustice at this point. It all comes down to not wanting to rely on her. Diaz is deeply intertwined with every problem, from the cause to the solution, and I hate to see myself continually asking for her help. It's a childish and personal reason. How laughable that I brought up righteousness and conscience as... No, how laughable that I brought up righteousness and conscience as a fixer for my first excuse. Think you can hit him?
You decided at last. Anywhere in the mist, and whoever it may be.
Boom. With a loud noise, Edgar landed in front of us. His armor was riddled with impacts and slices from Vespa's sword, though none of them appear to have left any critical damage. He held Vespa by the hair with his left hand.
Vespa Cabral, you're tough, but you lack experience. I can sense uncertainty in your blade.
Edgar spat as he slammed Vespa to the ground. Shoot him. The marksman of the mist pulled the trigger right on cue. The bullet was aimed for the center of Edgar's forehead. He easily dodged the shot by tilting it to the side.
Using cheap little tactics, aren't you?
With a deep voice, and Edgar swung his fist at me.
Detective!
At that moment, Ezra tossed the marksman into the air. It stopped that fist with both hands. Another shock wave shook the street. Crackle, crunch, as his arm broke from the overwhelming impact. She coughed up blood and fell on her knees. He clenched his fist. He clenched his fist and extended his arm once more. An attack with murderous intent. He's trying to kill me with his fist. I kept my eyes open and looked straight at him. His fist did not reach me.
Anywhere and whomever you desire, my bullet circled around and round and eventually reached you.
The bullet struck Edgar's head from the back. It rotated where it landed, to be precise. Just like that, Edgar came to a halt. Phew. I caught my breath. It was one of the few moments in my life where I was ready to accept my doom. Ezra, can you stand?
This isn't a big deal.
The first aid kit in Ezra's dimensional bag should be enough to take care of a broken arm. However, as it is a limited resource, I feel rather hesitant to use it right away. Vespa is unconscious and on the ground, wounded and bruised. We should sort this out. Hey, how long does your bullet keep a person frozen?
That depends on the person. You, for one, overcame it with much haste and arrogance.
Is it okay to move a person in this state?
Well, I don't see it being an issue, not that I made an attempt. Not that I made such an attempt before.
Ezra can't use her arms due to her injury. I tapped Vespa on the cheek a few times to wake him up. He let out a faint groan as his eyes slightly opened. No, he let out a faint groan as his eyes wide. He let out a faint groan as his eyes opened slightly. Have you taken care of him? For now. Vespa got up, running his hands through his hair. He looked at me, then at Ezra and the marksman of the mist, and finally surveyed the surroundings to get a gist of the situation. Let's get moving first. I nodded. Vespa put Ezra on his shoulder and grabbed Edgar at the back of the neck. A small act of revenge, perhaps. The marksman of the mist is plenty willing to follow us without any persuasion necessary. We should get to a good place to rest before we take the ammunition to Isabel.
No, I'm going with you.
Edgar's determined shout echoed through the basement. Then his eyes met mine, rang.
Well, heck. Both you and I are captives, huh? Dang it. What happened back there? Back in my head, it thinks like hell.
Detective. Thank goodness I died. Detective, thank goodness that guy didn't die at least. Amazing. Another person who possesses a spirit of steel. How serendipitous of me to witness two people triumph over my bullet in a single day.
I'm sitting on a crate, watching her tied and restrained Edgar with a smoking pipe pursed by my lips. Ezra and Vespa are waiting for my orders at the back.
You haven't killed me yet, so I reckon there's something you want.
First off, I'd like to clear the misunderstanding between us, Edgar.
If you mean how I mistook you for some small-time lackeys of the Sum, then you bet it's cleared crystal. Congratulations, killing me would be a huge step up in your criminal career. You're gonna be real famous among the syndicates. It might even get you a nice little position in the Sum.
I shook my head as I blew out smoke from my pipe. Let me introduce myself once more. I'm Moses, a grade 5 fixer belonging to the 7 Association. My current occupation is a distortion detective.
A detective. Distortions.
My work is to deal with the distortions we encounter in this nest and retrieve them. We crossed paths with the Sum unexpectedly. Thus we had no other option but to cooperate.
Did you harm any civilians doing your little errand?
No.
Right, maybe you didn't. You probably thought you could just be on your way after you've done helping the Sum. But you never stopped to think about the lives of the innocents that would be lost to the bullet you retrieved. That's what I find unforgivable about people like you.
Huh. Hey man, hey. Just I can't talk too much because I'm reading mainly right now. I can only talk at like the end of a chapter. Just to let you know. You want to hold us accountable because of that. Why don't you consider the possibility that we might help more innocent and powerless people after this business is settled? Your accusation is just a delusion.
A delusion, yeah, right. I've said similar things plenty of times in my life.
I don't smoke. Though you refuse to show any understanding for our situation.
Maybe I'll give it another thought when you turn against the Sum.
You seem to think you have the upper hand. You're tied to a chair, your life is in our hands.
And yet here you are, trying to negotiate with me.
He's an old hand. He must have a rough grasp of our awkward circumstances. What would be your demand if that were the case? Do you want the Sum dead?
Yep.
Fine.
Alright, then let me hear your side of the story.
We're headed to where Isabel is. Ezra and Vespa are following us, carrying the bullets.
So you're collecting distortions, huh? How many have you caught so far?
I don't think I'm obligated to tell you that much.
I know that distortions have been causing a commotion lately, but I'm not sure if you can just meet them whenever you want to.
It's a trade secret. We're about to arrive at the house that the Sum took over after murdering its previous residents. Isabel and a group greet us in front of the house.
You're back. You're back, Miss Moses.
Edgar runs into her as soon as she stops speaking. Ring. Edgar's metallic dog once again becomes the suit of armor that covers his body. His ironclad fist struck Isabel's face right away. She was slightly knocked back, but retaliated with a knee to Edgar's stomach. The mutual attack created a bit of distance between the two.
What is the meaning of this, Miss Moses?
Have a good one, have a good one, have a good one. Where was I? Isabel asks, spitting bloody saliva. I wouldn't speak with her. Destroying the assemblage of the Sum's members was no room for negotiation. That's a condition Edgar offered. It seems I can't avoid sinking into pits of violence no matter what I do. Ezra Vespa will support him. We're facing a capo and 20 soldados from the Sum. On our side, we have 2 grade 1 fixes, and 1 grade 3 fixer, and 1 grade 5 fixer, and 1 distortion. Oh, great. What happened to your count though? I'm guessing, Oh. Oh. And more water. And we have 2 more chapters to do. Oh, 3, counting this one. We have 41 and 42. Or am I gonna wrapping this up here? Okay, I think we're gonna wrap it up, surely. Chapter 40, To Bring Justice. His movement unfolded before my eyes in slow motion, as if all of it were crystallized within the frost. Vespa, you're free to brandish your sword with no constraint this time. I've been waiting for this. Vespa nodded. I imagine his sword was held back by worry when he was fighting Edgar. The boundaries of a fixer are no concern against the Sum, however. Vespa drew his blade and charged into the soldados without hesitation. We have their ammunition, and as such, they're devoid of the means to stop Vespa and Ezra from approaching them. Edgar's in a scuffle with Isabel. Isabel's brass knuckles collide with Edgar's steel fists, creating noises and sparks that distract my senses. Edgar should be able to hand Isabel on his own, if we keep the soldados occupied. The problem is how the 4 of us are going to take on 20 of them. Ezra, we'll take on 3, and leave the rest to Vespa.
Got it, Detective.
I bit my smoking pipe. What I can do is let out 3 forms of breath. Landing a hand with a red breath won't do much against a single soldato. The other options are the white breath and violet breath. Breaking their psyche or tying them down would be a more effective approach. Time will solve this problem. I let out a violet puff. The pipe assumed the form of a whip, and I lashed it at 2 soldatos running it towards Ezra. How well I can wield a whip is irrelevant. What matters more is the mental image. I have to picture how I will bind them in clear detail. As I do, the whip wraps around the victims, and purple thorns dig into their skin. Ezra now.
Okay.
Ezra swung her hammer at one of the immobilized soldatos to crush their cranium. She then swung it at the other, but missed, and they retaliated with the buttstock of their rifle. It turned into a stalemate, dragging on without either side gaining an upper hand. Vespa seemed to be struggling to land fatal blows on the foes surrounding him as well. However, this delay is exactly what we need.
Anywhere and whomever you desire.
The marksman of the mist had finished imbuing the Sum's bullets with his power. His shots hit one target after another. Some managed to react, but the bullets take a torturous route and find a way to get to them regardless, one by one. They ceased movement, and the last bullet struck Capo Isabel.
That's what got me, huh?
Edgar muttered. These some crooks are yours to take care of now. Bang. The sound of a new bullet hole in a human. The bullets have already begun to pierce those who can't overcome the trial. Edgar watches as the soldados fall.
Alright, I'll deal with it my way. What about that man you call the marksman of the mist, then?
We'll be taking them. Edgar made a bitter smile. Then he thrust his arm through Isabel's head at a tremendous speed.
So, is it just me, or are those bullet holes the same kind as the ones left on the deceased crew from my association?
I placed a hand on my forehead. The corpses of this way association fixes we found at the workshop weren't the doing of the Somme. That was most certainly the marksman's work. The decision I need to make here is clear cut. I can always procure distortions another time. For that, preserving my life comes first.
Yeah, you can have...
You can have the marksman. In return, I ask you to stop pursuing us.
Moses, it's hard for me to tell where you stand. You're acting like a single goal. You're acting for a single goal, with no morals tugging at you, good or evil. You're the kind of person who would stop at nothing to reach what you want.
Are you speaking the truth? Do you sincerely have no need of me?
The marksman of the mist shouted from afar. I only need to take care of the task Dios has entrusted me with. That's all there is to it. The marksman isn't necessary help for this job. My prosthetic arm emits a light.
Dr. Moses, I get the gist of your current situation.
It's Honey June. He's contacting me after all this time.
Our communication systems were all busted around here.
Edgar murmured to himself dryly. He must have mixed feelings seeing this kind of technology. He and his crew probably had a hard time requesting assistance here.
Lady Diaz said she will have the aftermath cleaned up. I want you to secure the marksman of the mist.
Honey June has been watching us all along. He's at least seen enough to know the context of the recent events surrounding him. He most likely kept an eye over us when we were being chased by sweepers and when we were negotiating with the Somme. I'm not even surprised. This is how Honey June works. And what he said just now with a roundabout way of meaning that we are allowed to kill Edgar. It's an indirect order from Diaz to do so. I'm not going to kill that man. Like hell you aren't. Ezra, stop him with all your strength. Ezra threw herself at Edgar as he raised a fist and started running toward me. She barely managed to hold him back with the imperfect segment manifested on her body. Her segment tends to be brought out in rather heated moments, and I had to be involved in it.
What's up with you, really? Is it the money you're after? No, you're motivated by your beliefs. Not the honest kind, though. You're supposed to believe in all the things in your wake. With your half-hearted sense of justice, you spared my life while taking down the thumbs and mooks. But that sense of justice is easily broken as soon as it dragged you down. Or maybe through justice that was too soft to even break in the first place. You're a band of scum, there's no doubt about that.
I tensely hold my smoking pipe in my lips. As Edgar said, I act according to my beliefs. Atonement. Self-consolation. That is the only goal I need to achieve. Nothing else matters. I move purely for the single purpose. I took a breath and let out a paleness. Turquoise blue powder covered Edgar.
Detective, why?
Ezra yelled at me. Thanks for pointing out something I am already painfully aware of, Edgar. I won't kill you for the sake of my scummy beliefs.
Rain, it's time to bring justice again.
Edgar's armor began to glow, and sparks flew off. It seems he's ramping up the power output of his armor to the maximum. Pushing Ezra away, he bolted forward. His destination isn't me. It's the marksman of the mist that he's aiming for. A bolt of blue light dashes across the street. He sprints on all fours, assuming posture reminiscent of a wolf. But he won't reach where he wants to be. The more he runs, the more the turquoise powder buries into his armor. A temporal treadwheel. Edgar movement slow to a near complete halt.
I thought you had forsaken me for a moment.
The marksman of the mist descends from the building and comes running. Ezra is looking at me with tears in her eyes.
You're such a liar, detective.
Just as she's his swords and walks to us. The situation has been handled somehow.
No, I can't stop here.
A lens was shattered, sending shards of glass flying into the air. The sound of it came afterward. Edgar's fist had smashed the head of the marksman. It happened all too suddenly. No one present could possibly expect or react to this. His movement unfolded before my eyes in slow motion, as if all of it were crystallized within the frozen sliver of time. In a fraction of a second, he spiked Vespa's sword with a backhand, just as he tried to draw it. The sword was pinned into the ground along with its hilt. Then his left fist struck Vespa in the chest.
Hey Moses, what did I tell ya? I said it's time to bring justice. I wanted to get away scot-free.
Could this be the side effect of the pale blue breast? It seemed as though Edgar stored momentum while his movement was halted. I have never encountered this kind of situation before. There's nothing Ezra I can do at this distance. Is this your definition of justice? Killing people left and right. Do you think you're bringing about justice by murdering whoever seems guilty enough to you?
Oh, I do, ma'am.
Edgar grabbed me by the neck and lifted me upwards. His grip is iron. It feels like he could tear apart my throat at any moment. Even this likely isn't the full extent of his strength. Ezra grapples his arm and kicks him to no avail. He won't flinch.
The marksman of the mist is dead. The sum's crooks is slain. You know who.
The marksman of the mist is dead. Some crooks are slain. You know who we actually are, too. What reasoning do you have left, then, butchering fixes out of mere spite?
Think of running your mouth and save your life.
I believe I'm describing the situation as it is. What you're doing at the moment is no better than a syndicate's behavior.
Egg and hell ring, I know.
Edgar threw me to the ground.
I'll remember you, Moses and the Distortion Detective. I'll remember you, Moses the Distortion Detective, and your assistants, Ezra and Vespa. I'll be in charge of every darn thing you do in this nest.
2 more chapters, aha. Chapter 41, Hotel Arriere. That social call does not bode me for a good evening. I activated the prosthetic arm. We failed to secure the marksman of the mist.
That's a shame. Though it's alright, please continue with your work, and it's getting late, so you might want to look for lodging first.
There is no ill will or reproach in his voice to him and Diaz. This is but a small detriment. I doubt they actually thought it was a shame at all. Ezra is upset with me, and Vespa is feeling powerless. We're a complete wreck. We're walking back to our vehicle, dragging ourselves along like soldiers running home from defeat. Dragging ourselves along like soldiers returning home from defeat. Whatever the case, we need the van Diaz gave us to retrieve distortions. Ezra, I had to take the option with the highest chance of success.
So you're gonna use that blue breast every time, Detective?
No, only when it's necessary, and that was one of those cases.
Still,
None of us had any other means to stop Edgar. That was the reality. Ezra was weak. Even though she has cyclement, a power she can't fully control, still weak power. Vespa is silently following us, staying out of the conversation. Remember, Vespa, our goal isn't strength or vengeance. All we should do is find and retrieve distortions.
And that is for your personal satisfaction, I imagine.
No way. And that is for your personal satisfaction, I imagine. Correct. We reached our car. It's thankfully safe and sound. It was provided by none other than DS, after all. I suppose it's time to go back on the road of collecting distortions. The sun is setting. I suppose we ought to look for a place to stay the night. And with the funds DS gave us, we could book a 7-star hotel. However, whether a proper hotel is still up and running in this nest is another question entirely. Either one of you have a place you want to stay at? Ezra, give me a map of Elcorp's nest. Ezra hands me a wrinkled piece of paper after rummaging through her dimensional bag. It's a basic map that shows major facilities located in the nest. It lists restaurants, accommodations, and such. The problem is that it's hard to tell where we are in this mist. That is, if we didn't have the prosthetic arm to specify our coordinates. I tapped the arm a few times to display our current location and superimposed it over the map. We're currently quite far from the center of the nest. All of the amenities and accommodations are easier to find near the center. Hotel Arriere. At least there's a 4-star hotel close to us. It looks like it'll take half an hour to get there by car. Even in the nest whose wings has fallen, people still live on, and services are provided. Fixers and syndicates still remain as well. People find ways to carry on with their lives, whether by hiring fixers or submitting to syndicates. However, might is more dominant than ever in such places. When residents run out of money, the fixers will stop providing protection and leave. The nest will gradually become deserted as people begin to leave as they soon. The nest will gradually become deserted as people leave. No, the nest will gradually become deserted as people begin to leave as soon as they're ready to. Aha. And there's no guarantee that someone who once lived in a nest can migrate to another nest. Each nest issues migration permanents differently. For some, the only remaining option at that point would be the back streets. I imagine the luxury of the nest life won't let them easily adapt to the back streets. This is not a matter of possibility though. It's about survival. It might be difficult to even find a decent area to settle in. On the way to the hotel, we faced several small-time syndicates, those attempting to rob us of our cash and vehicle, those trying to intimidate us for their own survival. We treat them with blades or outrun them before continuing on our road. It's a bitter drive. I gnawed on my pipe as we went along. Here we are, Hotel Lurier. I wonder if it's still in business.
We'll find out once we get in, Junior.
After exiting our vehicle in the parking lot, we headed to the main gate of the hotel.
Greetings, esteemed guests. My name is Root, the manager of this hotel. Would you like to check in, or are you here to assault us? I'll have you know that our hotel has a contract with an office employing multiple Grade 1 fixers, so I suggest you want to stay out of trouble.
We'd like to check in.
May I have a look at a piece of identification from your group's representative then?
I handed over my fixer ID card. The manager began to write down the info onto the guest list.
Miss Moses, a Grade 5 fixer. You must have come a long way from the northern side. The warp train must have cost a fortune, no? I hope you haven't brought along any headaches as serious as the distance you had to travel.
You're making this long. Are you always this inquisitive about your guest's business?
Please understand. As you know, the current circumstances of this nest are rather chaotic. Do the raids include breakfast too?
Ezra hesitantly asked.
Yes, of course, while not as good as before. We still serve delicious meat pies and tomato juice. I'd like to request that the others provide their IDs, please. We used to check only the person representing each party, but as I said, recent circumstances have made our procedures thorough.
Ezra and Vespa handed over their fixer IDs as well.
Miss Ezra, a Grade 3 fixer, and a Grade 1.
The manager's pen stopped for a moment. Perhaps he realized that we might be above what his hotel can handle. It's possible that he lied about having a contract with an office. We won't cause any trouble. We'll leave as soon as the morning breaks.
Trouble, You never know until the night passes, isn't that right?
Voice came from behind. A hotel.
Hotel Larry Hart's quite a bit of legacy. It's even partnered with the Han Association. Even though it doesn't care immediate safety, it's solid enough to screw over the lives of fixers like you.
A hotel that signed a contract with an association. If a fixer causes injury or damage with no good reason, the Han Association will investigate and punish them according to the course of events and severity of the case. Causing a scene in a venue partnered with an association can be grounds for additional punishment. The offender may be bombarded with penalty points that will accelerate demotions and disqualification.
Rusk, leader of Rusk's office. I'm staying here with my crew.
Vespa turned around to carefully scan the person. If what the manager said is anything to go by, this man must be a Grade 1 fixer. And other fixers from his office are probably somewhere in this hotel.
Now then, since we probably know what we could do to each other, you can entrust your weapons to me.
Vespa knit his brow. Ezra held her dimensional bag tightly.
Detective.
Manager, will Rusk's office keep us safe during our stay?
Oh, certainly. If you're not a fan of this method, I kindly advise you to seek another lodging.
You're aware that people of our caliber can easily create a rusk. You're aware that people of our caliber can easily create a ruckus unarmed, aren't you?
It's still the job of the manager to do anything to minimize risk. How many rooms would you like?
3 of the best rooms you've got.
Here's the room keys to 501, 502, and 519.
Our staff will guide you to a unique room you won't see in other hotels, Miss Moses. Consider it a special service.
Why, thank you.
3 suites for one night. That'll be 2.45 million in total.
That's approximately 800,000 An per person per room. The price is more or less understandable, as it costs a fortune to hire offices and maintain contracts with associations. I nodded in approval. And Ezra paid the fee with the cash in her bag.
Now we'd like you to turn in any weapons in your possession, please.
Vespa unbuckled its belt. Mr. Rusk, Mr. Rusk, expect things to get seriously messy if you leave so much as a scratch on my blade. Vespa warned in a low tone.
That's up to your attitude, I suppose.
Rusk glared at Vespa with bleary eyes.
Baby B, that's not how you ask people nicely.
Ezra chimed in.
Please take good of this bag and that pal's weapon. They're super duper precious to us.
I can keep the smoking pipe, can't I? I'll make sure to smoke outside.
Mr. Rusk, please examine that pipe to ensure that it has no capability to kill. Miss Moses, may we trouble you for a second if you don't mind?
I passed my pipe to Rusk.
That's an expensive looking pipe.
He inspected the smoking pipe from several different angles.
I found no problem with it, Mr. Root.
The manager nodded.
Have a comfortable night's rest then.
We followed the hotel clerk into the elevator. Ezra and Vespa went to their designated rooms. Mine is room 519, located at the end of the corridor. The clerk explained a few things on the way.
Breakfast is provided from 6 to until 9 in the morning, and
Are there many guests?
There are more visitors than you might think. Many guests have checked in to stay here long term as well.
That's fair. This may be a safer option than a common residence in a fallen nest. Although the price of a single night's stay will be more expensive than the monthly rent of a backstreets dwelling. For a hotel that has seen an increase in the number of guests, it doesn't seem very populated. I haven't seen anyone other than us.
I guess it's because it's late evening. Anyway, here we are. Room 519. It's one of the proudest rooms in Hotel Derriere has to offer.
The clerk opened the door for me, and I slowly walked into the room. As soon as my entrance was made, I'm struck by the thick stench of blood. Oh well. Oi. I quickly turned my head to see the door slam it shut in my face.
Enjoy your night, my lady. Enjoy your night, my lady.
A creepy voice came from the other side of the door. The social call does not bode me a good evening. I bit into my pipe to rid himself, looking into the room. Around 20 people are facing the wall. Blood vessels extend from the back of their necks and converge into one spot. An old woman sits on a leather sofa at the center of the room, connected to the 20 veins. A distortion. It's a blood fiend.
I bid you welcome, Moses. I am Larriere, the owner of this hotel. Perhaps it is no coincidence that you've arrived here in front of me.
Darn it, Honey June. There's a blood fiend at the hotel we randomly picked from the map. He's got to have this planned from the beginning. Calculating a route, a nest. This really was just an unfortunate turn of events. I still can't help but be skeptical of him, considering his track record. Creatures of the night, vampires, blood fiends, a stereotyped form of distortion, similar to merfolk, an incarnation of hunger based on psychological thirst. Various stories of blood fiends would be told, ranging from urban legends to stars of the city. I'm reminded of the once famous Blood Red Knight. I exhaled a red breath. The pipe assumed the shape of a red sword, which I pointed to the blood fiend.
A fascinating red hue. It's a blood imbued in it that emanates such crimson light.
As the blood fiend waved her hand, the blade melted into wine, cold smoke dissipated.
Moses, could you take a moment to listen to what this old lady has to say?
The woman lifted her arm and waved her hand, raising a chair next to me. I have no choice but to take a seat.
That day, ever since a pillar of light illuminated the city, the times have been changing.
I held my pipe in my mouth again. And this is the last one. Ah. This is the last one, here we go. Oh, we're almost done, guys, we're almost done. Around 2:30 we'll be done. After this we're done. Now I'm gonna call it. Chapter 42, Blood Fiends. I'll need some time to reformulate my understanding of the modus operandi of this species. The Blood Red Knight, a star of the city that made its mark a few years ago, known for randomly kidnapping people from the back street and the Nesta Lake, who would later be found as corpses robbed of all internal organs. Those corpses would then come to life and wander, looking for the next victim. The eastern and northern sides of the city trembled in fear of her for quite some time. From an urban myth to a legend, from a legend to a nightmare, to a nightmare. And soon enough, she rose to be a star. Multiple associations and offices joined forces to study the star, reveal its true identity, and ultimately slay it. Our office was part of that collaborative effort. Though, looking back, it's embarrassing to say that we contributed at all. I never got to see the Blood Red Knight in person, and the closest encounter I had was the corpse of a person killed by one of the walking bodies. We were never included in the major missions. I lacked experience as a distortion detective at that time, and it probably didn't help that my response to the situation wasn't the most professional. Several officers tackled the menace, but she would elude them every time, only leaving them with the living corpses to take care of. Those that most likely did face her were later found dead more often than not. Alas, the brighter a star is, the earlier it burns out. In the end, Charles' office eliminated the Blood Red Knight with flying colors. After that case, I began to study more about blood fiends in my free time. I encountered a few of them, whom I managed to repel or resolve. The impression I got is that every one of them possessed formidable power, whether or not they were of sound mind. The ones lacking rationality demonstrated explosive physical strength and tenacity, driven by a raging thirst. Those with reason behave in a clever and cunning way until they're cornered, at which point they will resort to inhumane strengths out of desperation, all because of their thirst. There's one thing they strongly crave: blood. It's far from the desire for a good meal. To them, blood isn't something to satiate their gluttony. It's a crystallization of desire. They treat blood like how we treat money. Only that while money is a means for us to afford various desires, blood is a purpose in itself to them. Similar to how humans often become conniving and vicious for money, blood fiends are obsessed with blood, and will go to any lengths to consume blood in their own ways. What worries would you actually have, other than ways to claim more blood for yourselves? I huffed out smoke. The old woman smiled a bitter smile.
Maybe so. Ever since the Pillar of Light was fired up, our family has been under its threat like no other.
Family? Is that supposed to be some kind of roleplay?
We had to form a community, so to speak. To live long and quiet lives with veins stretched into the night. We used to spend our days in peace, although there were a few imbeciles such as Alina. However, after the light was cast, a colony outside of our control emerged.
In other words, new blood fiends showed up.
Precisely. They're just like us, however. Those newborns aren't aware of our rules, and neither do they know how to control their powers.
Rules? Are your rules there to endorse trapping people in hotels and sucking the blood out of them?
Those people won't even remember what happened to them by the next day. I'm here to take an adequate amount of blood from them in return for ensuring their safety. We had been living moderate lives until we were faced with this trial. The purity and pedigree of the elders are put to a test.
Your distortions. I don't know about purity, but you can't have any pedigree.
Distortion, you say? Moses, a distortion detective. See who sees the twisted minds of people.
How do you know that I can see distortions? How did you expect my arrival?
A good friend of yours informed me.
That's all, Honey June must have leaked it out.
That fellow's more supportive of you than you might think.
Anyway, that should make this conversation easier. The distortion is essentially a disease of the mind. You're nothing special. Distortion that follows a set of patterns are especially plain. In that sense, your type is obvious. You're far from the trickiest distortion to handle.
We're unique that we have a bloodline. From the moment we received blood in a certain mansion, our acre was linked, and a lineage was formed. We have lived in the dark since long before the distortion phenomenon your kind has been blathering about. We've been fighting for our lives.
Wait, who is your enemy then?
Your kind, of course. Intentionally or not, we're bound to cross paths with fixers and syndicates due to our nature. We set up rules in order to survive. We decided to settle on each nest and district. That way we wouldn't invade each other's territories. To uphold this balance, we had to put our kin to rest until the population of each district was small enough.
You mean there are 24 more elders like you out there, one for every district?
Yes, now my position as one is being threatened. The newborns are jeopardizing the balance.
Seems to me that your balance wasn't all that firm, Seems to me that your balance wasn't all that firm, if even before that it couldn't stop the Blood Red Knight from showing up.
The Bloodford Knight, if you're talking about Alina, I can see that she was our mistake. She was an embodiment of violence, one that we had little success in calming. I worry that more of such incidents might happen.
Do all of the employees of this hotel know that you're a blood fiend?
Only Brute does.
So, who is the supposed menace that's threatening your seat? Fixer hired by the hotel. The fixer hired by the hotel.
Yes, keeping my enemies close to me makes it easier to deal with them.
So you're saying that Rusk is trying to remove you and take your home. I could only see an ordinary level of distortion from him. I can only see an ordinary level of distortion from him. A blood fiend's eyes are red. Having red eyes doesn't automatically make one a blood fiend, but the red eye trait is an invariable part of all blood fiends. Eye color alone does not serve as a definite distinction, especially since eye augmenting procedures are commonplace in the city. Most eyes equipped with combat assisting features emit a red hue. However, I could tell the eyes of a blood fiend apart from those. The greater the longing for blood is, the deeper and clearer the red will become, exuding a certain scent. A well of blood can be seen splashing inside their pupils. I could not observe such traits from Rusk's eyes.
He only revealed that side in his sleep. That might be why you couldn't see it.
Want to strike him first while he's awake.
Why to fatally injure him? His instincts of self-preservation would awaken his inner beast, and there, it is no use for me to meddle in and make matters worse.
What's stopping Rusk from killing you right away?
He isn't aware yet. He knows not of the fact that I am here, or that I am in charge of this area. Your friend told me that the distortion detective is currently on a mission to collect distortions. I don't wish to resolve this through violence. I want you to take him with you.
You sound rather reluctant to stain your hand with blood for someone who loves to drink it.
Rusk and all the fixers from their office are blood fiends, although Rusk himself isn't aware. He turns them all into his kiss and kin in their sleep. Or perhaps I should say subordinate entities, as you would put it. I've told you everything that you need to know. I'll leave the rest to the professional.
The old woman waved her hand. I was then sucked out of the room and ejected into the corridor. If what Laurier says is true, then the organizational capabilities of the Blood Fiends must far exceed my imagination. I'll need some time to reformulate my understanding of the modus operandi of this species. I shook off the dust from my body and stood up. At least the direction of this matter is in my hands. I can choose to neutralize Rusk, or I can choose to subdue Larry instead. And that is the end. There's no more left. That's the end. In that case, guys, hope you enjoyed. And I will see you all later. Peace out, and have a good one. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye.